Welcome to the Money Talk podcast. It is not the Money Talk podcast. It is the Rideshare podcast. It's 3 p.m. Tuesday with our new start time. We changed the start time because Tuesday's the slowest day of the week for Rideshare. So it's in my best interest to do it on Tuesdays instead. I need to drive on Mondays. I missed a bonus last week, kind of because I put too much on my plate. I'm going to blame myself. I'm not going to blame anyone else. It was about $300 worth of a bonus that I missed out. And moving forward, my primary goal is to pay off my debt, and that comes before everything else. It comes before my YouTube channel. So that's what had to happen. And here we are. We'll test this out for a few weeks, and if it's not working for me, you guys, or whoever or whatever, we'll change it back. But for now, here we are. I'm gonna quickly go through these comments, and then I'll let you guys know what we're gonna be talking about today. We got some good stuff to talk about. Just give me a second to get set up. I'm a little behind, a little disorganized. All right, so Francisco says, "Hey, finally got a message that you are starting. Welcome. If this is your first time being here live, I appreciate you putting in the time to get here. Uh, for those of you who haven't been here before, what I like to do first is I go through my earnings for the previous week, and then I show you how much other drivers are making across markets. And then we start going through some news stories or, whatever it is I had planned. For today, we're going to be focusing in on Minnesota, on Minneapolis specifically. They have Lyft threatening to leave. So we're going to kind of dive through that and what that means for drivers. And I know I've been critical of that whole thing, but I do want to provide Minneapolis drivers with some advice about what they should be doing moving forward in order to protect their finances. I don't agree with what the city passed, but that's irrelevant. I still want, my goal is always to help people have a strong financial plan so that they can insulate themselves from whatever potential negatives that might come about. So we're going to be talking about that for a little bit. And then I made a video last week about a viewer's Tesla, and I made some assumptions in those videos about the price and what he might have paid and his interest rates and things like that. Well, he saw that video, he got back to me with some more accurate information, and I need to see if that accurate information will change my mind on whether we should be getting Teslas or not. So that's another thing we're going to talk about. I don't know how long I'm going to go today, but we will cover as much as we can. Mike B says, "What's so sad? I have to wait another day for this podcast, but it's here now. So yay. Sorry. Um, the good news is you'll only have to wait the same amount of time again for the next podcast next week. And I think by doing it on Tuesday, I'll be a little more prepared. Because usually what happens, I chase a weekend bonus. I get in Sunday night, and then I get another bonus that I need to chase Monday morning. And then I'll wake up Monday, I'll go and I drive. But I worked so hard this weekend that I took Monday off. I just chilled. I did a little bit of tax stuff, but I just chilled out, played games, hung out with my wife. I pushed myself to the limit this past weekend, but it was worth it. So let's start diving into how much money I made. And I do have a spreadsheet that I use to break down my income. However, I'm often accused of lying about my numbers. So I like to show the app. This is the app. I'm using Windows Link, which allows you guys to view apps that are on my phone through my computer. So this is the actual Lyft app. You see, I made $20. A $20 tip came in today. It was a nice tip. I didn't even know it was happening. So this is for the previous week. It was St. Patrick's last week, and it was a fantastic time. Fantastic time. So I started at the bottom, but I'm disappointed in myself because I failed at something I shouldn't have failed at. I've moved on from that disappointment, but I want to share that disappointment with you guys. So, and this kind of ties into why I changed the start time for the podcast. So you can see I usually podcast Monday from 4 p.m. till about 7, which that's I need to be driving like around 6:30. So I would wake up early in the morning, get my topics together, and I should be driving early in the morning as well, but I didn't get my topics together, and then jump on the podcast with you guys, then go out and drive all night, and it was just too taxing. I was too tired. At around 11:41, I said, "All right, I can't do this. I'm just go home." And then I just got lazy. I didn't really drive Tuesday. Tuesday's the slowest day of the week. And then on Wednesday, I tried to. It was a $300 bonus, right? So I tried to rack up rides for that $300 bonus, and the bonus ends uh, Friday morning, 5 a.m. So I really only had Wednesday and Thursday to do it, and I could have done it. I could have done it, but on Wednesday, Lyft gave me an awesome bonus for $450. $450. But it was for 120 rides. Here, I'll pull it up. I'll show it to you guys. I shared it on my YouTube community tab. I'm gonna start using that community tab a little more, especially when I can't get videos out on time. Give me a second to navigate to it. Sorry, I'm drinking in you guys' ears. So this is it. See if I can zoom in some more. There we go. So the first half of it is $205 for 80 rides. And then the second half is $250 for 40 rides. And I knew that if I drove Thursday night into Friday morning to get the $300 bonus, it would hurt my chances of getting this bonus because this is 120 rides. We're talking about 40 rides per day for 3 days. And if I didn't start Friday morning at 5 a.m., it would have made it very, 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 very difficult, if not probably impossible, to get this bonus. So, because I didn't try to get the bonus as early in the week as I could, I missed out on $300. That's on me. I could have done it and I missed out on it, but I decided that I'm going to sacrifice that $300 to go and turn around and make that $455. I just want to make sure I put myself in a position to where I don't have to do that again. I need to get better at being more proactive and hitting my challenges earlier in the week and being on top of it. And that's something I've always fought within myself. I'm a procrastinator, so I like to wait till the last minute to do things. But I'm really good at doing things uh, during crunch time. I shared the screenshot on Saturday. This was I had one more day to hit this, and spoiler alert, I got it done. I got it done. I used one very small but significant strategy to help me make sure that I did this, and I'm going to share that with you after we go through the numbers. All right, so we were what on Wednesday? Yeah, so Wednesday I did 26 rides, 7 hours and 15 minutes, seven tips for $247.99, and the spreadsheet will break down the hourlies and the per mile and all of my expenses. But let's just show the proof first. Thursday, I went out there, I took 3 rides, hour and 28 minutes, $51, and then I just started calculating how much time it would really take to do because I was still trying to hit that $300 bonus, but I decided that you know what, it's better for me to go home, get some rest, and get ready for this weekend bonus. So that's exactly what I did. Oh, this is the first week that Turbo has been available in my city, and I do have some thoughts on Turbo. Again, we'll talk about it a little later, but you can see a little bit of it, like 10%. So the problem we'll talk about it now. We might as well talk about it now. The problem I have with Turbo, and let me see. Let me pull up their Lyft's page on this. Turbo Lyft. I think Turbo. Oh man, I'm not. I hope if Turbo is something that's extra, it's fine. Whatever. I'll always take extra money. But if Turbo is going to be replacing something, then it's not. It's not looking good. Not looking good at all. Okay. So here's Lyft's page on Turbo. It says earn 10 to 40% more per ride with Turbo. You'll see Turbo times every week during busy times. Just drive when they're offered and watch your earnings stack up. Turbo is available only in select regions, and it became available to me this past week. So my thoughts on Turbo are that 10% of $20 is $2. It's not a lot of money. It's good that it's extra money, but it's not a lot of money, and it only applies to the base fare, right? So if you have a $10 ride with a $5 bonus, you'll only get 10% of the $10. So it'll only be $1. So that's one negative there. If they compounded it on top of bonuses, that would be dope, but they didn't. 40% on a ride is good. So if you see, I think anything higher than 30% is worth changing your driving habits in order to accommodate for the bonus. Anything less than that, it's kind of like meh. The sweet spot would be to take medium distance rides where when you drop a passenger off, you're still going to be offered another ride within your city limits. If you take a ride that's too far gone, I mean, maybe if it's 40%, maybe you have a $200 ride for a 4 hour round trip and it's a 40% on that. Some estimations would be like that's an extra $80 on top of that, plus or minus, doing stuff in my head. So it'd be like 280 for a 4 hour trip. I would consider that, right? That's a scenario I'd consider it in. But the likelihood that you're gonna get a long trip during that specific bonus hour, who knows? But for short trips, I find it to be pretty negligible. If my base, the way I make the most money is when it is busy in a concentrated area and I'm using the area filter. A ride might pop up that's $3 base fare, but it's actually like $10 bonus on top of it for a short ride. And 10% of $3 is like 30 cents. So it doesn't add up for short rides very well. I have seen some screenshots of like drivers with black or the higher tier Uber and Lyft status, and it might be more worth it for that because they have higher base pays. But for me right now, I just hope that they don't replace ride challenges or whatever with Turbo. I think Turbo is more for Lyft. They're using it to trick more drivers into driving. So if there's a Turbo and people see it, but they don't really make the connection of like how much money this is actually earning them, all it's going to do is needlessly flood the market. So that's something, you got to think about. But if it, so far, I don't think it's that great and I don't think it's that bad. But it was around this time last year that Lyft swapped out bonus hours with streaks. I much prefer bonus hours over Turbo. And if they're replacing bonus hours with Turbo, it's just another pay decrease in disguise. And we don't want that. But let's go back to Lyft. So you see, I did have some bonus hours stacked with the turbos with some ride bonuses. So, it was a good time. And I did record the screen. I don't have it prepared now, but I'm going to have to pull it up if I want to show you guys the strategy. Or I'll just explain it. So the strategy I used, I'll explain after we go through this. So Friday, March 15th, I made $562.42 on 38 rides, 12 hours, 54 minutes, and 12 tips, right? I need to average 40 rides per day. I did drive a little bit until Saturday. You see it here. So I did get 39 rides and I needed, it was really difficult. It was like, I was trying to use as much as my online time as possible. And I guess I have to explain the strategy I used. So, okay, the day in my market starts at 5 a.m. It's going to differ for everyone based off of time zones. I'm on the East Coast. So the day in my market starts at 5 a.m. I can drive 12 hours before the app kicks me off and makes me take a 6 hour break. So, in order to make sure I was maximizing my online time, I made sure if I picked up a passenger and it was going 10 minutes away from where I consider the busy area to be, as soon as I drop that passenger off, I'm going offline and I'm deadheading back to the downtown. The reason I do this is because let's say I pick up the passenger and dropping them off, that's 10 minutes. In order to get back downtown, that would be another 10 minutes with the app on, even if I get a ping from the busy area that requires me to drive 10 minutes, I'm eating into my online time. Versus if I just go offline, drive the 10 minutes to downtown, go online, and then my next pickup is a minute away. So that's in the bad scenario, that's 20 minutes, 10 minutes wasted, plus the 10 minutes to drop them off. That's 20 minutes total. In my scenario, It's 10 minutes to pick them up and drop them off, plus 1 minute for the next passenger. That's 11 minutes. So I saved 9 minutes by doing that. And I'm doing that over and over and over. Yes, it manipulates the numbers, which is why I keep telling people that even online time can be manipulated. It says that I was online for 12 hours and 54 minutes, but I was probably out there driving for about 14 hours, not including breaks, because I'm going offline, driving back, and I'm doing this over and over and over. And yeah, it sucks, but I believe this to be the best strategy. It's a very small strategy, but the best strategy for making sure I get a high number of rides and the time constrictions that Lyft puts on us. So that's how I did it. That's the trick I used over and over and over. And did it work? Let's keep scrolling. Took a lot of rides. It's a lot of scrolling. All right, so Saturday, March 16th, I did the 40 rides. I wanted to, speaking back into how I'm a procrastinator, I wanted to get like 42, 43 rides on Friday, Saturday, so that I wasn't leaving it up to chance on getting more rides on Sunday. Friday and Saturday are the busiest days of the week in my market. And I felt like if I can only do 40 rides on Friday and only do 40 rides on Saturday, I'm not gonna hit this challenge. Right. So I was genuinely concerned going into Sunday that I wasn't gonna hit it. But I almost quit a few times. I got the 39 rides Friday. I got the 40 rides here. So I'm like, man, I got to do 41 rides. But Sundays are slow. But Sundays are usually like airport days where I'm taking 20-minute rides, like pick up and drop off for 20 minutes to the airport. And I just felt like it just wasn't going to be possible. However, I have lived long enough in my life to know that if I quit early, I'm going to regret it. I would rather think I'm gonna fail and keep pushing forward just to confirm if I did fail or didn't fail than to just quit at this stage in life. And that varies from what I'm doing, but even if I failed on Sunday, I would only hit the first part of the ride challenge, which was for $205. Which, if the challenge was for $205, not for 120 rides, but for $80, if the challenge was $205 for 80 rides, I would have done it regardless. So even if I had failed, I still would have made money, right? And as you saw on Saturday and Friday, there were no ride challenges in those amounts. I made $704 in 13 hours and 40 rides on Saturday without the ride challenge. You can see it right here. So I still made very, very good money. And I felt like even if I didn't hit the second part of the challenge for $250, I could still make $500 on a Sunday. That's what I thought would happen if I just worked the maximum amount of hours that were possible. So here's how much I actually ended up making on the Sunday. And this is my record. I've never made more money than this in a single day with Lyft. So I hit the 41 rides. I hit it with an hour to spare, and I made $931.77. It's actually $950. $951.70. It's actually $951.77 because a tip came late, but whatever. Whatever. We're not nitpicking over here. Super proud of myself. I hit it at 2:44 a.m. So I guess I had 2 hours left to really do it. No, 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 no. I had less than an hour to do it. I was running at, so the day starts over at 5 a.m., sure, but I was running out of, here it is. I only had 20 minutes left before I ran out of my online time and the app was going to kick me off. Um, I got a little lucky here, right? St. Patrick's Day celebrations was mainly on Saturday, but the actual day was on Sunday. So we still had some of that party and weddings and things like that going on that day. And then it sprinkled a little bit with the rain. And when it rains, people are less likely to take short walks and they're more likely to take short rides. So that worked out in my favor. If I had just relied on what I knew about my market based off of history, I should have given up. There was no way I was going to do 41 rides on a Sunday, but some luck played a role into it. St. Patrick's Day came through and then the rain came through and I just, tried my best. And then I used that tactic of dropping passengers off, going offline and going back down to downtown. So really proud of myself. We nailed it. Let's see what this translates to for the weekly totals. Look at the weekly breakdown. Give me a second, just making sure it's loading for starters, and I'm making sure there's no like important information that will pop up here. All right, so here's the weekly breakdown. We made $2,584.11. I could have cleared $3,000 if I wasn't a procrastinator, but it's okay. I'm not gonna beat myself up too much over it. I did 940 miles in booked, and I'm gonna show you why you shouldn't be following this number very soon, especially when it comes to taxes. In one day, 17 hours and 14 minutes of book time, and 154 rides total. So in one weekend, I made over $2,000 in just one weekend in 3 days: Friday, Saturday, Sunday. My ride earnings $914.66. My bonuses $1,420.50. My tips $231.35. I'm just clicking stuff. My cancel earnings $17.60 for a total of $2,584.11. It's pretty dope. I didn't do any Uber, so pretty dope. Let's check out my spreadsheet to get a clearer number on what's going on. So, like I said, book time 940 miles, right? We save money on taxes based off of the standard deduction tax write-off of 67 cents, I think it is right now, right? So 940 miles. When I track my own mileage, I put my odometer into my spreadsheet when I start driving, and then I put my odometer reading into my spreadsheet when I stop driving. So we started driving Monday. So that's if I highlight all of this, it's gonna show my total down here, which you guys can't see. There we go. So my total mileage what is 1,480 miles. The Lyft app is telling me that it's only tracking 940 miles of my book time. Now I'm not 100% sure if that's the number they add up and use in our tax sheets that we use with the mileage that they give us. But if it is, that's about 500 miles of tax write-offs that I'm missing. And I can show you what that means from a dollar perspective. Let's pull out my calculator. All right. Let me do some math in my head. All right. Okay, so we'll start with this number. 1,480. 1,480. And then we'll go to Lyft. We have the book miles. So we'll subtract 940. We'll just keep the numbers even. So 540 miles. Now, if I multiply that by 0.67, which is the standard mileage deduction rate, that's how much of a tax write-off that I'm losing on just this 1 week. $361 in tax write-off. If my taxes are, what, 25%? Is that what we want to say? Let's just assume 25%. That's in terms of real money, that's $90.45 more I'd have to pay in taxes because Lyft isn't accurately tracking my tax write-offs. This is why I've decided to stop using apps and just it can't get any more accurate than the way I'm doing it. It sucks, right? It sucks. I have to remember every single time I get into my car to put these numbers in. Every single time I'm tired from working 13, 14, 15 hours on the road, I still need to, not just go run inside and go to sleep. I got to put these numbers in. When my Lyft day ends, I still have accounting that I have to do before I can go to sleep, and it sucks. But it's I just showed you how much money I saved as a result of doing this. So you can get access to this by supporting me on Patreon. You can make your own, but I strongly suggest tracking your own mileage. Even if you use an app, I have Google Maps automatically track my location, and this helped me out. Sometimes I forget to do this, I procrastinate, whatever. But you should have at least two methods for tracking your mileage, because especially if you're using one that's digital, your GPS can drop, it can be inaccurate. Nothing's more accurate than your odometer, unless your odometer is broken. But that's what I would recommend. So last slide over here. All right, so you already know how much I made for the week. So far this month, we're about halfway through the month, right? We have about 2 weeks left, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look at my calendar. Hold on. My calendar's not popping up. So it's about, we should have 2 weeks left. So far, I've made, this is my gross right here, $5,989.35, working 113 hours and 33 minutes. My per hour is $52.75 per hour. Now, I will say, a lot of people, they say it's my market. And right now, yes, this is probably the busiest month for my market. Summer, we'll see a little surge, but my market's really bad in the winter. My market's really only good for 6 months. And it's not just the market. Strategy matters. And I'm going to prove it to you when I start talking about how much other drivers are making in my market after this segment. I'm going to show you what my market average is versus what I average. Because a lot of people assume when I share my numbers, when I talk about strategy, oh, your market's good. My market, I don't think my market's top 10. I don't. I think there are better markets than mine. And I think that if I were in those markets, I'd be making more money than I'm making now. But let's go through this so we can start talking about that. So my mileage so far this month, 3,516, and my per mile income is $1.70. It's pretty good. It wasn't this great in February or January. Like, I did pretty well. There's $1.18 here in February. But this is probably going to be my best month of the year, probably. My expenses, I've been good this year. This year, been pretty good. I did have to buy 3 tires, and that's the $386.46. Even with that being the case, I spent $318 on gas. My total expenses is $705.35. And then I have it break it down per hour. I don't know why I did that, but I'm spending about $6.21 per hour of operating my vehicle. It could be helpful. I don't really find that information too helpful. And then you can see my per mile expense of 20 cents. It's not bad. 20 cents per mile, it's pretty good. You might be thinking, Tristan, your car payment's not on here. And that's because Tristan doesn't have a car payment. He paid off his car in December. I want you guys paying off your debts too, because it makes your business more profitable, right? If you want to focus on profits, you want to talk about profits, pay off your debts. Not only will it increase your profits, it'll insulate you from any BS that Uber and Lyft want to do because your monthly bills will be lower. I do still need to add my car wash. I just do that now. It's $19.99 a month. I come down here, put in that's tires, car wash. Bro, thanks. We'll just put today $19.99. I'll put in my insurance. This is my insurance. Put it in up here first. Boom. All right, so that's total for everything so far. Like, the only thing I pay for on a monthly basis as far as my car goes is car wash and insurance. Everything else is like as I accumulate. So that my new expense total is $838. My per hour is $7.38. My per mile jumped up 4 cents, so it's now at 24 cents. So if you scroll over here, this is my favorite part of this tracker, and it kind of estimates my taxes for me. But the more important part is not the tax estimation, it's telling me how much money I actually walk out with after taxes and expenses. So what it does is it calculates the mileage write-off based off of how many miles I drove, and the tax deduction of 67 cents per mile, and then it takes this number right here, subtracts that number from this number right here, and then it shows me my taxable income. Now, just because this is my taxable income of $3,633, that does not mean that's my income. That's just what the government is going to think I made. But because I'm running my business to be more profitable than the standard deduction, right? So the standard deduction is 67 cents per mile. My actual expenses is 24 cents per mile. So the difference between 67 cents and 24 cents, that spread, I'm pocketing that money cash free legally. It's not tax advice, but that's if you run your business at a more efficient rate than what the government thinks it takes to run your business, then you pocket the difference on that. So that's what's happening. So this calculates that for you. It tells you what is the amount of money you actually go home with, despite the fact that the government thinks that you only made $3,633. So it takes that number, we apply tax rate to it. This is an estimation, and it shows me my estimated taxes will be $545.04. I've never had to pay taxes. I think last year was my first time. I paid like $200, but this is overestimating. I'd rather overestimate on taxes than to underestimate. So my estimated taxes is $545. So my true net is calculated by my gross, and then we subtract my expenses, and then we subtract my estimated taxes. Right? Yes. So my true net is $4,606.22 out of $5,989.35. It's pretty good. My hourly, my true hourly after expenses, after taxes is $40.57. It's pretty good. How does that compare to March? Well, February, $30. So it's up $10 an hour. Let me see what January is probably really bad. Actually, January wasn't too bad. I had a referral bonus like kind of boost my numbers in January. I haven't gotten any referrals in February or March, so don't think that's the case. So at $31 in January. So no, it's pretty numbers are looking pretty solid. Very solid. I'm gonna check in on the comments now, and then when we come back from reading the comments, we're gonna look at what other drivers made last week, and then I'll show you what drivers in my market made compared to what I make. And then we'll look at some other cities, including Minneapolis. We want to pay close attention to Minneapolis because they're having some changes happening, and we want to see how that impacts driver income moving forward. But let's check out the comments first. I'm definitely gonna have to read some water before I respond. Drink some more, read some water. Give me a second. Mike B says I made a killing this weekend. Surge was through the roof. What market are you in? Are you in my market? Fernando says, hello, I just started following you on X and now YouTube. I'm an Uber driver. It looks like you work Lyft more than Uber from what I see so far. Welcome. I'm having so much fun on X this past weekend, talking to other drivers and having disagreements with them. I love debating. It's just in my personality. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. I just love talking things through people because that's how you learn. And I'm glad you found me through X. And now that you're here, I drive the app that gives me the most money. If Lyft has better challenges than Uber, I'm driving Lyft. If Uber has better challenges than Lyft, I'm driving Uber. In my market, I consider my market to be more of a Lyft town, and I usually drive Lyft. So I consider myself platform agnostic. I don't care. I'm here to make money. And I try to tell other drivers don't build favoritism unless that favoritism is rooted in finance, right? Don't like, there are things I don't like about the Lyft app. There are things that I do like about the Uber app, but you should learn both. On the front end of things, Uber looks like it could make more money in my market. For example, Lyft caps the bonuses that appear on the map at $15. Well, Uber caps it at like 30. But Lyft gives me tools. For example, the area filter that lets me stay within an area and pick up a bunch of short rides. So if I get a bunch of short rides with $10 bonuses, it actually works out to be more money than taking medium range rides for that like $20 with Uber, you know? So that plays a role into it. But the only way you can make a proper decision about what app to use on what day is by using both apps and knowing your market. Mike B says, yes, Turbo Talk. I don't know if I like it yet. I I I I'm neutral on it. And as long as it doesn't replace something else, I'm kind of okay with it. It will still encourage drivers to drive more, which lowers everyone's income if more drivers are driving at the same time. So that's something to think about. But so far, I I don't know how good or bad it will be. I think that over time, it'll even itself out. If a bunch of drivers start realizing what I'm saying, like turbo is not worth changing your schedule for, then I think that it'll just even out. So as long as it doesn't replace something else, I'm okay with it. My B said I had bonus hour plus turbo plus $15 surge on most of my rides Saturday. Yeah, Saturday was great. Saturday was great. Real Slayer says that's exactly what happened to more bonus hours in CT. When you guys respond to things that I'm saying, try to be as specific about the thing you're responding to because I can't remember. I can't really understand the context here. That's exactly what happened to. Oh, no more bonus hours in CT. Yeah. So, dang, you have no more bonus hours? That just came out. So I know that street challenges have pretty much gone away. I haven't seen a street challenge in like about a year. It was about a year ago, like around June, July, that they kind of start turning off street challenges. And those I used to make a killing on. Like I have a really popular video on it. And they introduced bonus hours and they phased out ride challenges. So as long as Turbo isn't phasing out anything, I'm okay with it. It's not a crazy amount of money. It's a net positive as long as it's not replacing something else. Sorry, guys. Okay. Ron says 41 rides in Charleston on a Sunday would have taken me 12 plus hours. It took me 12 plus hours. Like it on paper, it looks like it was less than 12 hours, but I was driving maybe 14, 15 hours. You know, if it was slow and I just wasn't getting enough rides, I would just sit there with the app on for 30 minutes until the rides picked back up. I was desperate out there, you know? So just because you see 11 hours and 39 minutes of online time, that's not how much time I spent outside of my house driving. I spent about 14, 15 hours trying to get that bonus. Like I started driving that day at around, I left the house at like 1 a.m., 1 p.m., and I stopped driving at like around 3 a.m., you know? Got home at like 3:30 a.m. So it's like 14 hours and 30 minutes, 15 hours. So that's reasonable. William says I put 12K miles since the beginning of the year. Um, hmm. Let's take a quick look to see where I'm at on mileage. Maybe. Here it is. All right, so in January, it's not January. All right, so this is my starting mileage in January, 125,000. We're just gonna estimate here. And now in March, I'm at 137. So about 12,000. All right, we're doing the same. I see you. I see you. That's some mileage. Quickly, I'll talk about it. A lot of beginner rideshare drivers are overly concerned about depreciation on their car. Depreciation on your car should only matter if you plan on selling your car. And I think your best ROI on your car is to actually never sell it and to just drive it into the ground and only sell it once it's in the ground, right? If my car, my Jetta, I bought it for $13,000. With the mileage it has now, it's worth about six. It's paid off. I can make more money with the Jetta driving it than I could selling it. And even trading it in, I don't use that, so I'm not going to trade it in. But forget about depreciation. And I've also, this is kind of philosophical in a sense. This isn't something I can prove, but since paying off my car, I look at my car differently. I think a lot of people, they, especially people with, expensive cars and cars with a lot of debt that's still on it, people who are upside down on their car, I think they are so concerned with racking up miles on their car that they kind of shoot themselves in the foot by being very picky. They'll be out there for long periods of time, but they're so focused on how much they're making per mile that they don't make a lot of money per day. If you see what I'm saying, miles don't pay for your groceries. They don't pay the bills. How much money you make, period, pays the bills. So I would love it if I think that if I can encourage more people to start paying down their car, to start seeing their car as a thing that makes them money, it kind of detach yourself from like okay. If I had my dream car, which is a GTR, even if it qualified for Lyft and Uber, I would never use it on Lyft and Uber because I'm at the point where I understand that you can get attached to a car, like from a feelings perspective. You know, the car that you start driving for rideshare is typically a car you had before rideshare, and it's a car you bought because of your feelings for that car. So I get it. I really do get it. But we need to detach our feelings from our cars and just look at it as a business decision. Unless you're in a financial place where you can mix personal and business, right? I'm trying to pay off debt. I feel like I'm behind from where I should be financially speaking. And so I try to make as many decisions that are rooted in business decisions as possible. My next car that I'm starting to save up for is a Prius. I don't want to drive a Prius, personally speaking. Right. Funny story. I picked up someone on Sunday. He's homeless and he said he wants to get a car in order to start doing Uber and Lyft. I encourage it. Go ahead and do that. I told him he should just go and get a used Prius. And then his response to me is like, "What do I look like driving a used Prius?" And to me, it's just so weird that we would let our personal wants get in the way of our business decisions, especially when we're so down and out. And a lot of rideshare drivers do rideshare because we're down and out, you know, and it's okay. Rideshare can be used to overcome that, but rideshare could also be used to fall deeper into that trap if you're doing it wrong. If you're rolling over negative equity into your new car, if you keep buying debt, if you're not paying off your loans, like these things can make it harder on rideshare drivers. And I'm as I'm having more conversations with different drivers who are, you know, wanting change through legislation and things like that. I just want to encourage all of you to focus on the things that you have direct control over first, right? So if you want to go out there and fight the good fight and make changes to rideshare through the government, whether we agree or disagree on that, let's set that aside. And let's also create a plan so that no matter what happens in that fight, that you're insulated because you don't have the expenses that, someone who buys a luxury car for Uber and Lyft does. They're yeah, that's it. I don't want to dive too much deeper into that. I'll probably have to make like a dedicated video for it. But let's keep going with the comments. Let's try to move through these comments. Ron says take pickup odometer before lifting and when you return home. I could do that, but I don't want to add another step to my laziness. I want to fix my laziness. But that is a good idea. Not a bad idea. Joe says my health this week showed I'm sitting too much. I run daily and eat healthy, but developed hemorrhoids and my blood pressure was high, all from over driving and too many hours sitting. Number one is health. I agree with you. Number one is health. Um, I've been making sure that I'm eating better when I'm out on the road. Like if I get caught and I don't bring food with me, I try to bring food with me. And I have to go to like Wendy's, one of my favorite fast food restaurants. I'm diabetic. So I'll order one of their sandwiches with the 3 burgers in there because protein helps to negate the negative effects of carbs when you're diabetic. I won't get any fries. I'll order some nuggets to get some more protein. And then I bring my own water so I don't get soda. And it keeps my blood levels where they should be. And then after I eat, I'll go and take a walk. And sometimes, even when I'm driving, for example, if I'm hungry and I need gas, I might just do one of those. So I kind of trick myself into like, all right, I'll just eat now and then I'll walk after I eat. I'll drive around and then when I go get gas, I'll do some more walking. So I do agree with you. Um, I'm at the age, I'm 32. I'm at the age where, you know, my body isn't what it used to be. Like I can feel that change happening. And so, sitting down is how you die. That's the reality of it all. I don't want to be a rideshare driver for the rest of my life. Um, so do what you have to do to protect your health and make money, right? You got to find that crossroads because you can't make money if your health is in the trash. So thanks for sharing that with us. William says, Audemars since the beginning of the year to the end of the year. My black SUV is my business car. I go with my partner for personal reasons. I wanted to do that. My wife has her own car. I It's easier and simpler to just have a business car for business expenses because as William just says, he doesn't really have to track his odometer the way we have to. And if he's audited by the IRS and he can prove that his car is just only used for business, then they will accept that. They'll accept his readings. But if you use your car for a use of personal and business reasons, they won't. So it's nice to be in a position to do that. My B says my market is Virginia Beach. I had a lot of people come down from Virginia Beach this weekend. A lot of people from the north came down. I guess their spring break is this week or something. I don't know. Here's the verdict says, how do you feel about cash rides? Cash rides. Here's how I feel about cash rides. Drink some water first. Okay. For cash rides, one, I'm going to say every individual watching this is a grown person and you can do whatever you want to do. However, when you do those things, make sure you know what the potential negative ramification of those things could be. Right. And that's going to differ from city to city, state to state. I always tell people to do their best to do things as legally as possible. And that's what I would tell you to do. If you want to do cash rides and you've probably already started doing them and you want to continue doing them, at minimum, you should get the proper insurance. No one plans to have an accident. And if you get caught in an accident and you don't have commercial insurance, you could be in real trouble. Some people out there who encourage people to take cash rides, they like to say that, if you go out, you make a friend, you take them to the grocery store, there should be nothing wrong with that. They should be covered under normal insurance. But the second that friend tells the police officer that comes to the scene of your crash that, she paid you to go to the grocery store and that gets inserted into a police report, and then the insurance company sees that police report, they are not paying for your damages. And that passenger that is your friend that you just met, picked up, can sue you for any health concerns. That can financially ruin you for years. And I'm not for that. Now, if you want to go and do that, go ahead. But I feel like it's my responsibility to make sure that you are at least aware of what could happen if something like that were to happen. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to do this or that or the third. I believe accurate information is better than hiding things, so I'm always going to speak as true in a scenario as I can. So what it takes to actually be a driver who can take private rides changes from state to state, city to city. I looked at it for my city. If I wanted to take private rides, I would have to register as a limousine company, which is fine. The actual application process is relatively cheap. It's less than 500 for me. The problem is, if I register a car as a limousine, I have to remove my personal plates from that car. It can't have personal registration on that car. So that means I would no longer be able to do Uber and Lyft. So if I wanted to do a private business in my city, I would have to get a second car, put that car as the limo, and use Uber and Lyft to build that limo business, right? In the grand scheme of things, if I wanted to be a rideshare driver forever, or better yet, if I wanted to be a driver who makes money picking up passengers for a long period of time, I would consider it. But my goal is to use Uber and Lyft to pay off all my debt, to get my emergency fund established, and then to become a YouTuber, right? I'm going to start different channels. I'm going to have a tech channel. I'm going to have deep dive channels. I might have a political channel, like things I just want to do. I want to be a full-time YouTuber, and Uber and Lyft have given me the ability to use it as a stepping stone to put myself in a financial position to where I can do that. So um, that's why I wouldn't become a private driver in my city. Now, there are some cities where it's easier to become a personal driver. I haven't looked too deeply into a lot of them, but I'm Mike Drop Barbecue. He's another YouTuber. He got his license for very cheap and didn't require very much. And to the best of my knowledge, that's all he needed. As far as commercial insurance goes, I got a quote, and it's like $600 a month for commercial insurance. So you would have to look at that. You have to think about that cost. Are you making enough money to justify the cost associated with it? In fact, later in this video, I'm gonna give advice to Minneapolis drivers because they're facing Uber and Lyft leaving their city. I'm gonna walk through the process for that specific city on how to become a private driver. Like, I pulled up all the documents and I've looked through all the documents in a way. I'll show you. It's something cool that I recently discovered, and I'm able to compile like maybe 1,000 pages of PDFs into a system that is very condensed. So if you're from Minneapolis and you need to figure out what the best path is moving forward, because you don't want to wait until May 1st to make a decision, you need to stay tuned. Back to the questions. Mike B says, question, if you do 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. shift, how long are you normally waiting for rides between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m.? In my city, it doesn't really slow down, but there won't be a lot of bonuses. There won't be a lot of bonuses. If I'm not using if I'm using the area filter, I might have a slowdown period. Some really good advice I got from someone that came into my car on that is during 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., if it slows down for you, switch to food delivery, right? Uh, People are at work, it's 9 a.m. Some people need to get breakfast in, and then around 12 o'clock, you'll have that lunch rush. Around 3 o'clock, it gets busy, there's traffic. I like to go home around that time. But actually, no. All right, so I'm gonna give you a sneak peek into a video I'm working on. I gotta pull a map up for this. This is worth showing you guys. I'm gonna show you the strategy that I've been using to drive during traffic time. Disclaimer alert, don't drive when there's traffic, but if your life has like restrictions that make you unable to drive at night, then you will find what I'm about to say very, very helpful. Depending on your city makeup, you have to fill in the blanks with your own city. So this is a map. This is where I live. This is Charleston. In the morning, traffic moves from up here towards the city, which is down here. You guys can't really even like see anything, so I'll zoom in. Right. So traffic moves from up here in the north and comes down here to the south. If I want to drive in the morning when there's traffic, what I do is I'll wake up before traffic starts. I will head downtown. I'll use destination filter to only give me rides that take me downtown. And then I will stay downtown using the area filter. And when I am downtown, like traffic, once you actually get downtown, isn't that heavy. So I'll stay down here. And whenever I want to leave, I know that there's no traffic heading north unless I wait till later in the day. But in the morning, there's no traffic if I'm heading from south to north. So I'll just stay down here as long as I want. I can wait for traffic to break apart, and then I can release the area filter and start driving in different parts of the city. But that's what I do in the morning when there's traffic. Now, in the evening when there's traffic, I do the opposite. So I'll go up here to the north, like about right here is where I'll start. And then I know that any rides that I get heading south will have no traffic because traffic will be heading north. So what I do is I'll head up here maybe around 3 o'clock, 2:30 before traffic makes it difficult to get up here. And then I know that bonuses start appearing up here. And then I'll use the head towards destination filter on Lyft, which will only give me rides heading downtown. Now, it's not perfect. Sometimes, once you get off the highway, you still have to contend with a little bit of traffic to pick someone up. It happens. That's the risk you run of just driving during traffic time. But it has a significant benefit um, of just being good. Now, if your city, you have to think about the fact that if you're going to use this strategy, most people are trying to go away from downtown. So the amount of rides you have access to might decrease. However, what I love about the area filter is if there's a ride that doesn't align with your area filter, it'll still pop up on the map. You can click on it with Lyft and it'll show you where it's going. So I use that as a method of chasing bonus zones on my way down. And if I see a short ride that's worth taking despite traffic with that bonus zone, I'll do it. And I have screen recordings of all of this stored on my hard drive. Whenever I go out, I record my screen because shady things can happen with Uber, Lyft, or passengers. So I always record my screen, get into that habit. It's a good habit. And I can show you where I use this strategy. I just got to put together the video. So there you go. You got a sneak peek of a good strategy if you have to drive through traffic. Super recommend not driving through traffic, but if you have to, this is a very, very good strategy to use. Go back to the comments. Here's the verdict says, thanks to you, I used the area filter this weekend and I made a killing Saturday and Sunday. Were you the guy on X that tweeted that? I had someone say that, they were following my advice and they learned a lot. I was arguing with a lot of people this weekend. Guys, I find it very weird, even here on YouTube. If you look in some of the comments on my my videos where I talk about strategy more and not just news, I find it so weird that I have to convince people that they can make more money. Don't you think that's weird? I think it's weird. It's like I'm literally getting into arguments with people over how they can make more money. It's so weird. It's so weird. Like I'll be like, "Hey, show me your screenshots," and they'll be like, "Nah, I don't think you can do anything to help me make more money." And then I respond by saying like, "So instead of just sharing your screenshots and seeing if I can make you more money, you rather just not?" It's such a weird concept. I don't know, but that is my fight. I made my channel. The first videos I made were not rideshare related. It's all finance related because I learned how the stock market works. I learned how money works, and I thought it was very important to spread that message. And so I never anticipated that in the act of spreading that message, how difficult it could be to convince people that there is a path forward financially. You don't have to do this rat race long term. It's hard work to 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 get yourself out of that race, but you don't have to do it long term. I'm on the journey for it, and I know that once I'm there and I have proof that I am there, more people will probably listen to me. But I didn't want to wait till I was there. So as I'm going through this journey myself, you guys are along for the ride, and hopefully I can convince some of you to make more money and to be more intentional with the money you receive. Silver Fox says, "Hey now, hey later." I don't know. CBL Daddy says 12-hour days is minimal 200 a day. I agree. You should be making at like, and to me, that's really on the low end. But if you have to do it, you have to do it. Certain market, my market isn't every market. I don't think my market's top 10, but my market's not bad. There are bad markets out there. There are seasonal markets out there, and if you can make $200 in 12 hours, as long as you can keep your expenses low, like you just got to do it. Just got to do it or move. Silver Fox says, "Yeah, it depends on the market. Market this, market that. I'm gonna show you how much other drivers make in my market, and I'm gonna show you how much I make in my market, so we can see that yes, market does matter. I'm not even gonna front. Market matters, but no matter your market, I believe there is an opportunity to make more money than you're making today, unless you're the best. I'm not even the best in my market. Now, I'll show you, but I'm not the best in my market, and I have an opportunity to continue making more money. So unless you are the best in your market, I don't want to hear market matters. It does matter, but there's still things that you can do to make more money in your market. And I think that needs to be the first thing that you solve, right? As long as time has existed, people have moved for work. Before modern society, when people needed food, they moved to hunt the food. They would go where the food is. In modern day society, outside of rideshare, people move all the time for new jobs, for new work, for new industries. This is not new. Drivers have the ability to move to markets if they wanted to. And the reason why it's never my first suggestion, I'm never out here saying, "Oh, you're in a bad market, go ahead and move." That's because typically speaking, and 90% of the time, I think that drivers can make more money in their market without moving, right? And how much your market can increase might change. But first, you need to become the best person in your market to actually determine that your market the money can't be made there. So there are small towns, small markets that are gonna have that issue. But most of the people I speak to, most of the people that watch my videos are from big markets. I can see exactly where you guys come from. Majority of you are from Los Angeles and New York. I can pull it up right now. I'm gonna do that because I am curious. Okay, yeah, I found it already. Good. Okay, so this is for America. This is over the last 28 days. 11% of my audience base is from California. And California has great cities with great markets. I'll prove it in a second. Texas, 2,000 of you guys are from Texas. I actually have an article showing that Texas isn't a great place for rideshare. So, some of that could play a role into it. Florida can be hit or miss, but there's times where Florida is in the top markets. New York's in there. New York is the top market in my opinion. I'd kill it. My alarm is going off. Hold on. So yeah, if I were in New York, I'd make a killing. I think I'd out earn a lot of people, and it'd be great. But yeah, so like your market does matter, and your strategy matters too. But if you want to make the most money possible where you live, your strategy matters the most. So I'll leave it there. All right, where we at? I scrolled down too far. 12 hours, let me know. Depends on the market. Mike B says, bro, if it takes you 12 hours to make $200, this ain't the job for you. I'm gonna say, like, you gotta keep in mind, not everyone becomes a rideshare driver to be a rideshare driver. Some people are fired, let go from their jobs. And if you have to work 12 hours to make $200 in order to survive, do what you have to do. But you need to figure out how to increase that. I think that if you're brand new and you're making 20, so when I first started rideshare, I made 15 to $20 an hour during the pandemic when I first started in this same exact market. I don't have time now, but I'm gonna pull up that first shift that I worked. I didn't make a lot of money. And even though it's become harder to make more money with Uber and Lyft, my income has only increased over time. And that's because of my strategies. Like uh, I'm always fine tuning my strategies. I'm always trying to do more. 6 months ago, I would have told you guys don't drive through traffic. Period. But if you're trying to make a large amount of money, you can't only work at night, right? Even though working during traffic time might decrease your pay, finding a way to increase your pay during traffic time could be a net positive overall. So that's what I started doing. I started saying, all right, Tristan, you've had this rule for a while. Let's kind of break this rule and figure out how to drive through traffic. And I'm always, that's just my personality. I'm always trying to get better. You can watch my old videos, they're garbage. You can watch my first live. It's not this. Like I'm always trying to improve in everything I do. And the way you do anything should be the way you do everything. Remember that. So always challenge yourself, always keep trying to improve your strategy. Strategy matters a lot more than people give it credit for. CBL Daddy says, at Mike, read my message again. Maybe you didn't finish high school. All right, you guys don't, it's okay. It's okay. He's saying at minimum. And I kind of agree with it. At minimum. Oh, he's nice. He apologized. Well, okay, I like it. I like it. I like it. Mike B says, Mr. Minimal. Okay. Tesla Ride Chronicles says, oof. That's one of my favorite words. By the way, guys, I made a video going through his Tesla purchase last week, and he's updated me with some more information. And at some point today, we're going to use his new information and see if it changed my mind. And it might. It might. The information he provided was pretty good. There's some things I still wouldn't have done, but I give him a pass for his Tesla. I give him a pass, but we'll see why in a second. Tesla says I'm actually on the live. Is it because I changed it to Tuesday? Is that why, or like, is this a better day now? Queen Brown says passengers will be in the back seat. Big red flag for insurance company. Yes, 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 it is. And I have to. I'll be honest with you guys. I have taken a cash ride before. I've taken a couple of them. Sometimes I'm reluctant to do it. Um, Sometimes it's. I got married in September. My risk tolerance has changed since I've gotten married, and I expect it to continue changing as I'm trying to build a family. I have to accept that the decisions I make no longer only have an impact on me. So, as I've gotten older, as I'm trying to do better to protect my finances, I've become more risk intolerant, and I focused a little more on security. Yeah, that's it. So, do things to lower your risk. We're not so rich and in a position to. All right, let's use real stuff, right? So I actually have an article pulled up, and well, yeah, okay. I'm gonna start talking about this article because it's relevant to the comments that are being shared, and then we'll dive back into the comments later. I was gonna talk about this one a little later, but we just do it now. If I can find it, give me a second. Here it is. So, police undercover sting leads to charges for multiple unregistered rideshare drivers at Hartsfield Jackson. That's the biggest airport in America. I don't know if it's the biggest, but it's the busiest airport in America. So it says Atlanta GA, 6 people were charged after police discovered they were operating as unregistered rideshare drivers at Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta International Airport on Friday. Lyft and Uber are doing a good job of making sure people are certified. They have checks of who these people are, but if random people are showing up to take you places, you don't know what could happen, said Tom Sipple, who uses rideshare apps when he flies. According to the Atlanta Airport Police Department, law enforcement agencies conducted an undercover operation targeting unauthorized rideshare activities, which led to those being charged. Our team and ATL enforcement worked tirelessly to execute the operation seamlessly, and the results speak for themselves. According to police, multiple people were also arrested for violating airport regulations during the operation. 2 drivers attempted to get away but were later identified, and police said their vehicle tag numbers were recorded to subsequent legal action. How dumb can you be? We will continue to collaborate with our law enforcement partners to enforce regulations and maintain the highest standards of service excellence, said Balram. I might have been butchering that. Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta Airport General Manager. Authorities said illegal rideshare operations not only jeopardize the safety of passengers, but also undermine the credibility and reliability of authorized transportation services. That's crazy and that's so scary. I'm definitely going to make sure I keep checking license plates. And Angela Barron, who uses Uber and Lyft frequently. Atlanta News first contacted Uber and Lyft regarding this operation. Uber said Uber is deeply committed to the safety of the riders of the Uber app. We've developed. I'm not reading that. I'm not reading. I'm not really. I don't really care about what they have to say. But what happens when this goes down is they will impound your car. They will suspend your license. You may face jail time. But even if you don't have jail time, let's say they're chilling. You don't have jail time, but you don't have a fine that you have to pay, and you need to use a car that is now impounded, and you have to pay to get that out of impound. Your main job is driving people. It's like checkmate here. They have the thing that you need to make money, and now you have to go and pay a lot of money to get the thing that you need to make money. It could really screw you over. And even when you get the thing, if they suspend your license, you gotta go and work somewhere as soon as possible, especially if you don't have emergency fund. Worse, if you have debt on your car, you're still gonna have to pay for that. Like it can getting caught can create a snowball of things that happen in your life that is not worth it. To me, it's not worth it. That risk is not worth it. And that's not even an insurance risk. This is just doing this incorrectly. Now, there are correct ways to do it depending on your city. We'll go through the way to do it in Minneapolis. I already told you guys how to do it in Charleston, and it's not worth it for me. But this is real, And as someone who is making videos, I have almost 1 million views on my channel. That's not 1 million people, but 1 million times someone could be watching my content. And if I'm telling them to do cash rides without telling them the negative repercussions of what could happen, like I feel like I'd be failing as a content creator, to be honest. Like that's so much, this amount of risk can have a huge negative impact on the rest of your life. So if you're gonna do cash rides, do it properly. And this is recent, right? So I didn't really date this. This happened. Where's the date on this? This was published March 18th. So this happened over the last week. This is not old. This is something that routinely happens in different cities. Last week, I think it was at the Texas Rodeo. Before that, it's happening in Florida last week as well. It happens occasionally. So don't do it. I wouldn't do it unless I did it correctly. All right. Well, we'll continue into the articles. I'll jump back into the comments later. But let's talk about Minnesota. Let's focus in on Minnesota for a second. I have a discussion question for you guys. Do you think, all right, so under the assumption that Uber and Lyft stay in Minnesota and they are forced to do the new pay, do you think that there will be a positive change or a negative change for rideshare drivers, or both? And if you think it'll be positive, tell me what are some of the changes you think will be positive. If you think it's going to have a negative impact, Tell me why. Let's start talking about it. Let's be respectful. Even if you disagree with someone, doesn't mean you have to be disrespectful. We'll walk through this, and for those of you who don't know my stance on it, you'll figure that out pretty quickly. But let's start with this Lyft. I think I can. I'm gonna go to my Twitter. So Lyft emailed a bunch of people in Minneapolis, telling them that they're pulling out. So I want to first read that letter to you because unless you live there, you probably wouldn't have gotten it. And I shared it on Twitter. Let me go find myself. Oh, we got to talk about this too. Here it is. So this is one of the council members that shared this. Let's go. Let's read it. It's not even. I'm just gonna have to look for it. Lyft letter to Minneapolis. See if I can just find the image. This is it. This is not it. Let me see if I can get it on Reddit. Here it is. Nope. This is old. So they've been doing this for a while, but that's an older one. This is it. This is it. Here it is. So this was posted 4 days ago. It says goodbye Lyft. And here's what the letter says. It says, we're leaving Minneapolis. Despite our efforts and your support, the Minneapolis City Council passed an ordinance that would make rides on the Lyft platform unaffordable for the majority of Minneapolis residents. This drastic drop in rides means the thousands of drivers who rely on the platform for earnings will ultimately earn less, creating an unsustainable situation for customers. So I took an econ class in college, supply and demand. I've observed how society works with wage changes and things like that. And I'm not 100% against government intervention when it comes to wages. There needs to be some form of protection, and I think that is important. I think that I think it's a sliding scale. I think the more we mess with the economy, is the more negative could come from that. So, based off of what I understand about how economics works, and economics is a complicated thing. I don't have an economics degree, so this is just my opinion. I don't think if you increase the price of rides too much, it's going to disincentivize passengers from taking it. That's just one negative, right? They do have a public transportation system. I did read online that it's not that great and there are some security concerns, but people are going to start weighing those security concerns versus taking rides. So that's just one thing right there. We've seen this happen in Seattle, and I covered it in a previous video. And drivers in Seattle are complaining that with this new minimum floor, is what they call it, they're making more money per active hour, but they're having a lot less activity, right? Even restaurants said that their orders have decreased by over 50% when it comes to food delivery after the new law went into effect in January. So there are real ramifications that happen as a result of this. So when Lyft is saying this drastic drop in rides means the thousands of drivers who rely on the platform for earnings will ultimately earn less, there's some truth to that. However, we also need to keep in mind that it is in Lyft's best interest to say that. So yes, there's some truth to it. Um, it's probably what will happen. As for how much of it happens is up in the air, but it's in Lyft's best interest to say that as well. So I do want to acknowledge both of those things. As a result, starting May 1st, Lyft will be forced to stop offering rides in Minneapolis, and you will no longer be able to request rides with Lyft that start or end in the city. Currently, Uber says they're just pulling out of the entire market. They said, all right, you do you. Bye. I don't know. It feels like a game of chicken. And you're going to hear me say that a lot. I'm going to explain why in a second. It says we'll continue to advocate for rideshare policies in Minnesota that create sustainable solutions that work for both drivers and riders. Thank you for your continued support. Let's just read the first like 3 comments from people and see what they're saying. Freaky Deaky Dude says, what I don't understand is why the city council passed this on ride sharing, but completely ignored food delivery that surely has the exact same issue of drivers not making minimum wage, or those Amazon drivers that use their personal cars. Someone follows up saying, "This also doesn't make sense to me. Like, you're just going to shift the problem you're trying to fix as fewer people will drive for Lyft and more people will move to other gig work." All right, they're not really saying anything I find interesting. So let's move forward. So that's the letter. I wanted to make sure you're all up to date on that. They put out that letter last week, and I wanted to make sure you guys saw it. So let's go and go back over here. So it says Lyft and Uber to cease operations in Minneapolis after new minimum wage law. So yes, this story will cover some of the things we just spoke about, but it's written March 16th. It's going to produce some more updates on the information. Lyft and Uber will stop offering services in Minneapolis on May 1st after the city council override the mayor's veto of a minimum wage for rideshare drivers. So if you're just tuning in to this story, you don't really know what the background, this has been going on for about a year. The governor vetoed a law last year saying, hey, let's pump the brakes, let's commission a study, and then based off of that study, let's decide where we want to move forward. And then the mayor Frey, when the city council proposed the current thing that just got passed, he vetoed it again. But in Minnesota, the way it works is, I guess once the mayor vetoes something, the city council can come back and overturn that veto, which I think is fair, right? I might disagree with what the city council did, right? And like the amount of pay they want for drivers. But I think that that system is a cool system to have in government where there's the checks and balances at the local level. It seems fair to me. I'm down with it. I don't agree with the outcome overall, but I'm down with it. I support it. And so that's what happened. So Mayor Frey vetoed it. And Mayor, to be clear, Mayor Frey, he does support increased minimum wage, but his thought of what is reasonable, which I think is reasonable as well, is pretty good. And you'll see as we read through this story what the specific numbers are. I don't remember specifically. I need to write them down somewhere. So the city council on Thursday voted 10-3 in favor of the override, allowing rideshare companies to be paid the local minimum wage of $15.57. This is misleading. This is extremely misleading because it is not that. It's a lot higher than that. Lyft said in a statement the bill was deeply flawed and the ordinance makes its operations unsustainable. We support a minimum earning standard for drivers, but it should be done in an honest way that keeps the service affordable for riders, said a Lyft spokesperson. Uber said in a statement obtained by CNN that it's disappointed the council chose to ignore the data and kick Uber out of the Twin Cities, putting 10,000 people out of work and leaving many stranded. So when the council passed the ordinance, they passed it the day before the state was set to release their study on driver income. So they knew what they were doing. They're like, nah, we're not gonna wait for this study. We're not gonna wait for more information. We're just gonna go and do this thing. And to me, as someone who tries to be impartial, tries to be logical, tries to be fair, I think it's a good idea to make decisions based off of accurate information. If you want accurate solutions, you have to have accurate data. So I think it was fair to wait. They didn't want to wait, and they used data that was like unproven. They used their own data. So we'll keep reading. You'll start to see more of that. Mayor Jacob Frey, a Democrat, said the Mayor Jacob Frey, a Democrat, said he supports a minimum wage for rideshare drivers, but opposed the ordinance because it didn't factor in a Minnesota state study that analyzed how much drivers should be paid. Everyone wants to see Uber and Lyft drivers get paid more, but getting a raise doesn't do a whole lot of good if you lose your job, Frey said. There will be a massive impact felt by our region. The ordinance mandates rideshare drivers make at least $1.40 per mile and 51 cents per minute within Minneapolis. However, the analyst Frey referred to showed lower numbers at 89 cents per mile and 49 cents per minute to make minimum wage. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I'm gonna pull up a ride that I took in my market, and then I'm gonna apply their numbers to my ride to see how much I would have been paid instead. We'll see if it's more. We'll see if it's less. And I'm gonna try to pick a ride that's not like too crazy or too bad. I'm gonna pick what I consider to be like a medium ride. Maybe. Depends on how long this takes. Okay, let me see. I'm gonna try to pick something that has a base fare of over $10. Okay, this has a base fare of over $10. Okay, this is reasonable. I find this to be reasonable. If you disagree, let me know. All right, so this ride accepted at 11:08, picked up the passenger at 11:19, and dropped off the passenger at 11:33. So it was 12 miles and 46 cents. Let me bring my calculator out. All right, so first when you use, let's start from the bottom. We are going to look at what Mayor Frey wants. He says 89 cents per mile. So we're going to do 0.89 multiplied by the amount of miles that I took, which was 12 miles and 46, 12.46 miles. So 12.46. So with the mayor's proposal, not even considering time yet, I haven't added the time, they would already make more money on base pay than I made on this ride. My base pay for this ride was $10.08, and that includes time and distance. For the calculation that I just made based off of what Mayor Frey wants, they already make more money. So let's go ahead and add the time. So we're gonna say plus his time was 49 cents per minute plus 40.49 times it's not gonna do it without the brackets. Let me see if I can't even put brackets on this. Hold on. Oh, this is so annoying. I'm just gonna use AI. Give me a second to get this set up. You guys can watch me set it up. Okay. Let's gonna. All right, so we're gonna use AI for this because the calculator won't let me use brackets. I don't need brackets. I'm gonna read you this disclaimer. It says Gemini may display inaccurate information, including about people, so double check its response. But it's pretty good at math. This is my favorite AI to use. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and then I'm gonna start feeding it information. I made $10.08 on a ride that lasted 24 minutes and went 12.46 miles. Show me how much money I would have made if I were paid. Let's go grab those numbers. 89 cents per mile and for minutes per minute. And also show me how much I would have made at 140 per mile and 51 cents per minute. So here it is. It's the prompt. So it says, based on the ride details you provided, here's a breakdown of how much you would have made under different pay structures. For 89 cents per mile and 49 cents per minute, at this rate, you would have earned $11.29. This is calculated by multiplying, we don't need that. At $1.40 per mile and 51 cents per minute, here's what your earnings would have been: $17.65. This is calculated by multiplying the distance. We don't need that either. So under the first pay structure, you would have made $11.29, while the second structure would have paid you $17.65, which is significantly higher. So I made $10 in my market on this ride, on this ride, and what the mayor wants to give them would have paid them more than I made in my market. Now, what they want would have paid them $7.65 more. So here's what I want to do next. How much would the second structure work out to in dollars per hour and per mile? Let's see what that works out to. Well, we know the per mile, per hour, because they're claiming that this model is equating to $15.50, right? We're about to see the truth. It's doing a lot. I see it's not answering how I want it to answer. Um, I guess I can do it myself. Considering took how long did it take? 24 minutes. 24 minutes. How much would that be if we estimate it? Dollar per hour income. I don't know if I'm asking correctly or not. Okay, there it is. So the estimated hourly income, assuming they pick up back-to-back rides, it's a perfect world, life is great. That would be $43.60 per hour. That's a far cry from the $15.50 per hour that they're saying. And again, don't think of this as me saying that we shouldn't do anything to increase driver pay, but this is blatant bad math. Blatant bad, like it's so bad. It's so bad. I don't if so as far as the discussion question that I asked you guys to think about, do you think that arbitrarily increasing how much drivers make won't have any negative impact? Like, at what point will they be negative? It's impossible, right? You can't sit here and say we should pay drivers $100 per mile. It wouldn't work out. Something would have to break somewhere. And I'm asking you guys to really think. Do you think this could break the system enough to where drivers won't be able to earn the amount of money they think they could make? Like, yeah, sure, when I get a ride, it would be great. But do you think that one, the market won't get oversaturated? Do you think that other people with cars won't be more encouraged to now and drive in the market? And then in the face of increased driver supply, do you think more passengers would stop paying for this? There's like, what do you think will happen if if drivers are making $43.60 per hour before bonuses, right? We're not even talking about, this is base pay. And I'm not saying they deserve this or they deserve that, but I am curious to what you guys think will happen to the market if something like this is enacted. So think about that as we continue diving and doing the math on this stuff. He says we shouldn't be afraid of the data. We should be embracing it. We shouldn't be ignoring studies that come out. We should be utilizing them and creating the best possible policies. The mayor is imploring local politicians to come up with a solution before May 1st. The rideshare services say that user prices would double if they stayed in the city. It's true. Yeah. So I'm just thinking about the math that we just looked at. It is about double. When I first read that, I didn't believe it. I hope I didn't close it. I probably closed it. And here it is. So, right. I'm not gonna do the math. I don't care to do the math again. So we'll move on from this article. The rest of it kind of covers some stuff that's in this article, and it's important for me to read this. We're gonna get some like information regurgitated over and over, but it is I think that this one is important to read because there's a major issue in it that I want to address. So Walz is the governor, Frey is the mayor. Walz urges lawmakers to take up rideshare legislation amid threats from Uber and Lyft. Now this makes my blood boil. I don't like where the government is going on this end. Tim Walz urged lawmakers to address rideshare driver pay in the state as Uber and Lyft announced they will stop providing services in Minneapolis due to the new city ordinance. We certainly want to see folks paid a fair wage for their work, Walz said on Monday. We also want to make sure that wage structure allows for the business to go forward. I'm deeply concerned should the rideshare companies leave. The issue came to a head after the Minneapolis City Council passed a new pay rate meant to be an equivalent to the city's minimum wage for rideshare drivers who pick up, drop off, or pass through the city. A 10-vote council majority overrode Mayor Jacobs Frey's veto. While Lyft plans to end services only for trips that start or end in Minneapolis, Uber plans to cut operations for the entire metro area, including Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport. That's causing concerns for many people, especially Minnesotans with disabilities who rely on those services. The companies say the higher pay rate would price them out of the market, with customers not willing to pay for higher priced rides. The companies say higher pay rate. I just read that. Minneapolis City Council President Elliot Payne said last week the new rate is one a driver can raise a family on. Some Minneapolis City Council members have stepped out to say they've been contacted by other rideshare companies that plan to move into the marketplace. I have strong thoughts on this, and it's not time for it yet. I view this as a utility that is needed. To lose this, I don't think it's a plan to think someone might step in. That's not really a plan. That's hopefulness. Walt said, we have an opportunity. We've got to get busy on this. Actually, I'm going to address it now. I am extremely disappointed with the city council who have been fighting for this for so long and have always been aware that Uber and Lyft said if this goes into effect, that they're going to pull out of the market. Here they are sitting on their hands the entire time and they don't have a replacement ready. They're currently having talks with different companies about who should fill in, but they don't have a replacement ready. Originally, the ordinance was set to go into effect April 1st, but the city council pushed it back to May 1st because they needed time to get a competitor into the market. So shout outs to you for pushing it back an extra month, giving drivers an extra month to think things through, to find different things. I'm cool with that. I think pushing it back a month was a great idea. But how do you go through this entire process? How do you line up votes? How do you even convince people to vote without having a backup? Without they've been, this isn't new. I've been covering this story for months now. At least September, I've been covering this, and it's been going on before that. And they don't have rideshare companies ready to go. I'm upset because they're playing with other drivers' income, right? It's one thing to increase the pay and see what happens to the market, whatever. It's a different thing to put these companies in a position to leave and have nothing else for the drivers. We can blame Uber and Lyft for leaving, sure. But we can also blame the city council for not having a backup. You're playing chicken without breaks. Like, what? Like, I'm getting flustered. It's really upsetting because it's easy to feel disconnected from this when you don't live in Minneapolis. It's kind of like when you see something happening on the news, and then, someone gets shot, someone gets stabbed, someone gets murdered or whatever, and then it happens to someone in your family, it hits you different. It's like when when something happens to someone in your circle, it hits different. We're playing around with people's lives, right? If there's no rideshare ready to go and Uber and Lyft pull out and these people can't make money, they're going to lose their homes. They're going to lose their cars. Their family's going to be discombobulated. There's going to be so much real world ramifications to this that I'm extremely disappointed that the people who are fighting for drivers don't have a proper solution to already be put in place. They don't. We're going to talk about some of the potential alternatives that might pop up and why there's still roadblocks in front of those companies that can prevent them from popping up. We're gonna cover those, but I cannot stress how disappointed I am with the city council for not having a solution ready to go. They voted on this. They picked when they voted on this. They could do better. They could do better. You can disagree with what they're doing. You can agree with what they're doing, but I feel like everyone should agree that they should have had a company ready to go. I don't feel like that's controversial. Going back to the story, it says there are bills at the Capitol that address statewide rideshare driver pay, but at a slightly lower rate than what the Minneapolis City Council set at $4, set at $1.40 per mile and 51 cents per minute. Senate File 4780 calls for $1.39 per mile and 49 cents per minute for rideshare drivers when taking a passenger on a trip. A state report recently calculated that rideshare drivers would need to be paid to earn the Minneapolis city minimum wage of $15.57 per hour. It found drivers would need to be compensated at a rate of $9 per mile and 49 cents per minute. We just did the math. We can check this off and verify this is accurate. We are committed to working through this process with the stakeholders, Lyft Representative John Reich said during a recent Senate hearing. I don't care about the stakeholders, to be honest. There's a specific thing that I want to address. Our Township. This is it. This is what really makes my blood boil. On Monday, House Assistant Minority Leader Rep. Elliot Engen, Republican, White Bear Township, filed a bill to try to preempt the Minneapolis City Council's action. There's a difference from letting those municipalities and local governments to determine what is best for them, but this is going to have a larger implication than just Minneapolis. This is going to not only impact the entire metro area, but Minnesota at large. We need to get out in front of this. So I'll break down what's happening here and why this makes my blood boil. Despite the fact that I don't agree with the council, I think that the checks and balances that Minnesota have for passing local ordinance is fantastic, right? It's absolutely fantastic. This bill that he's introducing would disable any city from making local changes to rideshare. That I don't agree with. I think that it is unfair for you to create a specific bill just to stop local like committees from doing things. That's unfair. Like I said, it might be a strange stance for me, someone who doesn't agree with the city council to take, but they went through the proper checks and balances and they won. Don't be a sore loser. Like I don't think it's a good law, but don't be a sore loser. Don't change the entire law just to get your way. That shit pisses me off. Like as an American, that's unfair. Like no, so I don't support that. I don't support this House file bill that he's trying to pass, which would stop any community from adopting or enforcing an ordinance that regulates a transportation network company. Like I understand. Like and like it's so specific. It's not even like they're just taking power away from the council. They're trying to take a specific power away from the council. You should have thought about this in the beginning. I don't think this is fair, right? Like I really don't. Like if you at this point we're on the train is moving, and we're gonna have to see how it comes out. It's unfair that you want to change how government handles things at the local level just because you lost. I don't think that's fair. Let me know what you guys think. I think that it's an overreach of political power if they are able to do this. But if they are able to do this, I think it would be beneficial to the drivers. Maybe in the short term, we don't know about long term. It might give them too much power in the long term. But even with that being the case, they played the game, they played it correctly, and they won. It's unfair to try to change the rules of the game because they won. I'm not a fan of that. Not a fan of that at all. It says there are so many people that it's going to impact that we want to protect these rideshare services. I get that. I get the sentiment, but I don't think this is how you do it. Watts said he wants lawmakers to review the recent report from the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry that studied 18 million rideshare rides in Minnesota. I'm going to break this down later. It's a lot, but I am going to break this down. Let me save it for now. Okay, so yeah, that's what makes my blood boil. We're going to move on to the next part. What's the next part? Okay. Actually, so we just read that. Okay, that's a different story. So I'm going to check in on the comments. And then when we're done with the comments, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to show Minnesota drivers what it will require of them in order to get their private license, to be able to take private rides. We're going to talk about what they should be doing to prepare for May 1st, financially speaking. Even though I don't agree with the ordinance, I still think it's important to get your finances in order just in case I'm right. And I don't want to be right. I hope pay can be increased and then, everyone makes money, everyone's happy, they're taking care of their family. I don't think it'll be that smooth of a ride. And I want to make sure that you are preparing for what could happen if things fall apart. And I want you to be as insulated from this BS as possible. But we're going to check in with the comments first. I'm going to drink some water. Okay. Tesla Rideshare Chronicles said I do $400 yesterday in 7 hours. That is excellent. That is awesome. Said I do like 25 rides a week and hit 1,500 to 1,800 in Southern Cal, which is a market a lot of people complain they can't make money in. Here he is. CBO Daddy says, hey guys, I haven't started Uber yet. I have questions I need answers to. Can you promote advertising a business on TV in a car? Yeah, you can. You want to be careful about what I think what's most important is what you're promoting. Like you don't want to promote like political stuff. You want to be a little careful. Um, yeah, I mean, you could if you wanted to. Are you talking about your own businesses, or are you thinking about like going out to other businesses and like saying, "Hey, here's an ad spot in my car. Do you want to pay for it?" You could. I have something called the Play Octopus tablet where it has like games and ads in it, and I make money from that. And I'll share that with you guys in a second. Actually, I should have shared it with you guys already, but it's fine. I made like $100 from it this weekend, so it helped. Yeah, but yeah, I don't see why the issue would be. Even Uber, he says no, but even Uber and Lyft have tablets that have ads running on them that they're trying to get in people's cars. Like Play Octopus tablet, I'll just show you right now because it's not going to make sense unless I show you. Let's just pull up a video real quick.
If you're an Uber or Lyft driver and you don't have a Play Octopus tablet, then you're doing it wrong.
I don't want to put this whole video in there. Might get demonetized. But this is it. This is the Play Octopus tablet. It has ads in it. They play games on it, and you make money from it. In fact, I'll drop the link in chat so you guys can get it. It's a referral code. It's $25. Anyone has access to the referral code. I don't have a special relationship with Play Octopus. It's any driver who refers another driver can get access to it. I had it pulled up here. So this is from my actual app that shows my earnings. You can see my lifetime earnings. I kind of just started using it this year. My current balance that I have to cash out. Let me see if I can find the referral screen. And I'll just put the link in chat. Maybe it works. We'll see. Yeah, here it is. So yeah, there it is. It's free, by the way. It's free to get it, and they give you a very small percentage of the ads. It's nothing crazy, but it's gas money, and gas money could be turned into real money. All right, scrolling back up. Oh damn, we have a lot of comments to go through. Okay. CBO Daddy says, wow, Rideshare Professor said yes. He said, I'm an independent contractor. I can advertise anything I want. Generally speaking, I agree. Like, again, it comes down to what you want to put. And I haven't done any like formal research into this. So I could be wrong. I really could be. I don't think I am. Test the Rideshare comment says, why you ask? He says, I'm doing research before I start. Hopefully Tristan has a definite answer. Bro, just be natural about advertising. Like my graphic designer expertise, got a girl who does fashion and charged her 800 for a logo. I think having it depends. If you're trying to like get ads from other businesses, I think it's fine. But if you're trying to promote something that you do, I think having a conversation with the passenger is the better way to advertising your services. For example, I have some skills with the camera. If I wanted to pick up people from the airport and be like, hey, I have a photography package while you're here on vacation, I'll follow you around all day and take pictures, and I'll pick you up and take you to the restaurants. I can do all of that as long as it's within legal space. Uber and Lyft shouldn't be able to say anything to you. The only time advertising is a problem is if you're like canceling a Lyft or Uber ride and converting it into cash ride or something like that. But even if you have your private license and you have a Lyft customer in your car and you have the proper insurance and you want to say, hey, the next ride you take, I can take you back to the airport or whatever. That's all good. That's all fine. It's all legal, and it shouldn't be an issue from that. Cali gang. Silver Fox says, I'll take you up on your offer. Show me how to make more money. I think what I'm going to do is I'm currently working on a website. It's going to launch when I hit 10,000 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. But I'm like less than 100 away from 10,000 subscribers. I'm going to launch a website. I'm going to rebrand the channel. So if you don't see Money Talk anymore, don't get stressed. But you'll see my face and you'll see the thumbnail and you'll know it's me. And I'm not going to tell you what the new channel's going to be called yet. But I'm going to have a place where you guys can like put some screenshots in, and then I can take a look at the screenshots and see if I can give you any actionable advice. Now, of course, I'm not going to know your market as well as you, and I'll just have to look at the information you guys provide and try to make a determination on that information. So it's going to be limited for sure, but I'm going to try to start having more one-on-one point of access with you guys. Look at you using WhatsApp. I'm from Jamaica, so we use WhatsApp a lot. The Driven Dad says, "What's up?" The sky. I'm joking. It's good, man. I hope you had a good week last week. Driven Dad is another content creator. Go check him out. And Tesla Ride Chronicles. I saw that you like set up your YouTube page. It feels like you want to make content with your Tesla, so do it. Just the hardest part is getting started. Just go ahead and post your first video, bro. Can you drive any color car for rideshare? Yes, you can drive any colored car. I would get a Prius. I'm very pro Prius. I'm not going to say that my opinion is the best opinion, but get a Prius. If you can pay cash, pay cash. So Silver Fox says long-term good, short-term bad. I agree. Even if he's referring to the ordinance, I agree. I think that this is going to help shape whatever happens with rideshare in the future, for better and for worse. And I think that if it's too much over time, it would be pulled back. And if it's too little over time, it will be pulled forward. And we're seeing this in different markets. So I kind of agree long term, it's good. I do think there needs to be some form of regulation. As far as how much regulation is up in the air, I'm for as little as possible. And I think that if what Minneapolis doesn't work out very well, it's not a total loss for rideshare drivers. It just shows us what we can't do and how we do it. I know that New York, when they increase their wages, it's over time. They said, okay, we're going to increase wages by example, $5. But we're going to do it over the course of 4 years. I think that's reasonable. You don't want to make huge changes that can have a really impact. Like a lot of the times government might mean well. Take that back. Sometimes government might mean well, but how they execute things doesn't always line up with how they thought it would happen, because economics is a very tricky thing. Alexandra says, why don't they just make it $1 per mile for drivers and they can just get whatever extra they want as money? Will it not be so simple for everyone? It would be easier for passengers to calculate things like that, I guess. But even Mayor Frey offered them $1.20 and they declined that. They said, nah, it's not enough. Damien says, why does everyone talk about excessive pay, but not excessive profits, making rides too expensive? Because we are drivers and we don't care. If that's the real answer, that's just what it is. I mean, it's just what it is. I'm not gonna go and email Uber and Lyft that they're paying us too much. I'm not gonna do that. The stuff says, you were close last week, Tristan. I beat you by $2. You beat me by $2 in the app. In the solo app. I just remembered I haven't showed everyone what drivers made last week, and so let's do that right now. The Seth, he's in my market. He's like the only driver in my market that can beat me when I'm trying. Honestly, he's the only one that can beat me if I actually try. Let's here we go. Okay, so first I'm gonna start with showing what my market looks like versus me, and then I'll jump around to different markets and we can see what other people made. So this is what I wanted to show you guys. For those of you who were at the beginning, a lot of people just say Tristan's in a great market. And again, I'm not in the top 10 market, but I'm not in a bad market. I think my market sits in the middle, maybe the upper middle. But I do think strategy is important. regardless of your market. If you're not making the most money, if you're not like a top driver in your market, there's probably strategies you can implement to increase your income. The average driver in the Charleston market right here, according to this app. So anyone who has this app, this is what their average is. They're averaging $23.17 per hour. That's the market. That's the average for my market. We look over here and I'm averaging essentially double that, $42.40 per hour. If people in my market are averaging $23 per hour and I'm making $42 per hour, that gap is probably best explained by strategy. So for those of you who consume my content and your default response to the money I make, to the stats that I show, all of that, if your default response is because I'm in a good market, I can literally respond and say, yo, listen, that's only half the battle. The other half comes down to strategy. And if you think that there's no strategy that you can implement, let's take a step back. Here's the problem with humans. Here's a problem that humans have, especially when it comes to finances. The reason why it's easier to blame other people for your finances is because if you want to accept that there is nothing that you can do, my phone is ringing. I lost my train of thought. Okay, if your mentality is that you're doing your best, right? And the reason why you're not making money is because Uber, Lyft, or is because your market, that could be true. There's a percentage of that could be true. However, in order for you to accept that there's a strategy out there that could make you more money, that would mean up until this point, you have been the reason why you haven't been able to make money. And it's hard for a lot of people to accept that. A lot of people want to think that they're doing the best that they can. And in order to accept information that can disprove that, you have to be willing to humble yourself and accept that you've been doing something wrong. And that a percentage of the reason why you're not doing well financially is because of you. Even beyond Uber and Lyft, even when it comes to like having a budget or spending habits, it's easy to blame the economy, and a percentage of that is true. But here, I like to focus on the controllables. I can show you a quick example. I've been talking to a lot of people on Twitter, and I've been flustered over there. I've been flustered because I have people who, let me see. I've been tweeting so much, it's gonna be so difficult. Let me see. Let's go here. Let's just go to replies, maybe. I got rude with one guy. I try not to get rude, but when people get rude with me, I kind of respond by being rude too. Here's a good one, right? All right. So this is where it starts. This is from Silence Neither. He's kind of commenting what's happening in Minneapolis. He says, well, Uber and Lyft are trending, and not for good reasons. To make it simple, they are pulling out of two major areas because they will have to pay their drivers minimum wage. As one of their drivers, I can tell you now that they barely pay anything. We get paid less than servers. That's what he said. So here's what I did. I went to the Solo app, which I just showed you guys. The Solo app tells you how much money other people are making it in various markets. And then here's what I said. I said the top 5 drivers in Minneapolis last week. These numbers only include people. These numbers only include people who have this app. They're likely drivers who earned more. So the number 1 driver in Minneapolis, this isn't last week. This is the week before last week. They made $2,000, $1,989. Number 2 made $1,468. Number 3 made $1,456. Now, before I move any further, I like to use the Solo app for various markets because it's not a representation of what's the most someone can make in the market. It's an actual representation of what the least is, right? It's very possible people made more money than this, but they don't have the app, and the app only pulls data from people who have the app. But you can now see that you can make at least $1,989. Now, of course, information is missing. It's missing how many hours that person worked. It's missing. They could have like newbie bonuses on there. Unlikely that all of these are newbie bonuses. There's some gap in information, but this is a good tool, and you can find it in any of my videos. It's in the description. It's a really good tool for bridging that gap. Like once you are able to say, all right, I'm only able to make $1,000 a week. This person is able to make $1,989 a week. Now it's up to you to figure out the strategy of why, right? And my channel, I try to provide the tools, right, that can work in different cases, but it's up to you to figure out how to best implement those tools. Like, not every situation is going to call for a hammer. Not every situation is going to call for you staying at the airport. And what might work last week might not work this week. It's a constant effort to figure out your strategy. So here's how this guy responded. So he says, as a driver, I hate when people say that, as a driver, as if I'm not a driver. As a driver, I can tell you those drivers worked ridiculous hours and their tips equal about 80 to 85% of that money. Those numbers are also only occur in the largest metropolitan cities. You're talking the top earners and implying that that's what they all earn as well. Bad form. So apparently he didn't even really look at the screenshot. He's saying that this is from metropolitan cities, but this is literally from his city. This isn't across America. This is literally from his city. And I just kind of just realized that that's what he said. So my response to him was, do you mind showing me how much money you made last week, how many hours you worked, what times of the day you worked, and your acceptance rate? I might be able to provide you with some feedback that may increase your earnings. And here's his response. I'm so disappointed in his response. He responds saying, I doubt it. He doubts that I have any information that might lead him to make more money. He says he does well enough from tips, which is apparently 85% of his total pay, which that sounds like BS, from tips, not from the Uber pay rate, to continue doing it. The only way to do better than that, though, is to work as many hours as you can, 12 hours, then 8 hours off before another 12 hours, by the way, and try to always work dinner late night. So my response to him was simple. Instead of sharing your screenshots with me, you'd rather just believe there's nothing you can do to increase your income outside of working 12-hour shifts and 8-hour breaks in between. If someone has information that can help me make more money, please send me an email. Like, tell me right now. I want all the strategy. And I don't understand why someone who is complaining that they're not making enough money and that, majority of their income is coming from only tips and they're just getting by, why aren't you more motivated to figure out or to receive more information about how to make money? And the conclusion I generally reach, that I generally think about, is because then you would have to accept that the reason you haven't made a decent amount of money so far is because of you. And that's the hardest pill for a lot of people to swallow. And I don't know. I don't really know where do I even go with this? I don't know. Who knows? I'll jump back to the comments. That's where I'm gonna go with this. Oh yeah, I was in the solo app. That's what I was doing. Let's go back to that. So yeah, that's it. So I'll show you what people in my market made last week. So this is Nasef. This is the guy in chat right there. This is this week. We'll go to last week. He's already made $431 this week. Today's Tuesday. He's about it. He's about it. He's more about it than I am. But you can see I came in at number 2, 2,400. He came in at number 1, $2,402. He barely beat me. Look at that. Look at that. If the tip, so I got a $20 tip that rolled in late. It came in Monday morning. If that came in before, I would have beat him. I would have beat him. And yeah, other people in my market making money too. But let's look at the all metros. So this is across all metros. I ranked 8th out of all of Americans, not Americans. I ranked 8th out of everyone who has a solo app that lives in America. I don't know if they're all Americans, so I wanted to make that distinguish. So the top driver, Denver, he made $3,575 last week. Tucson, Arizona, $2,874 at number 2. New York, it's my hometown, $2,758 at number 3. New York again. That's Uber Eats and DoorDash. New York again for $2,654. You have Columbia, South Carolina on the list at $2,541. Riverside, California, $2,421. Charleston, SC, we have Nassef, $2,402. And you have me at number 8, $2,400. And you have San Francisco at $2,399. And then Austin, Texas comes in at number 10 at $2,333. Let's see how much people in Minnesota make or made. I'll have to scroll for a while. Gotta get to the M's. It's 5 p.m. We have about an hour left, so I do need to start speeding through. At 6 o'clock, the Rideshare guy has his podcast, and I'm just gonna end my podcast, and you guys can jump into his podcast if you want. Did I pass it? Am I? Here we go. Okay, so the top driver, this is what, for last week? Yeah. Top driver made 1,800 at number 1. Number 2 made 1,673. And number 3 made 1,677. Let's see what they made before. Top driver for this, it won't go back too far, but the top driver this week is already at $320. Number 2 driver is at $293. Number 3 is at $240. So not that great, not that bad. But use the solo app. Use the solo app to determine how much other drivers are making in your market and compare that to yourself. Let's try to do our best to close the gap. Tesla Rideshare says minute fee $5 per minute. Base is $30 per hour. Basically, every 30 minutes, ride should equal to $15 minute plus. Okay. CBL Daddy says, I talked to a driver at Cali gas station who said he made $105 in 2 hours. I think he's lying. That's not unreasonable depending on what time you drive and what your strategy is. It really isn't. That's all right. So I don't know how long you've been here, but you must have missed it you probably think it's not possible because that's your market. So then let me pull up California. LA, I'm gonna pull up LA. See what LA did last week. HIJK. This is last week. All right, so we got 3 drivers pretty much making over $2,000 last week. I mean, that's not. I don't think depending on when you work, right? So the way rideshare works is, if you were to work the best hours of the day, you could make $100 in 2 hours. But chances are that's not enough money for the week. So you have to also work bad hours or not great hours, So when I'm out there, it's not like I'm consistently averaging $40 an hour. Sometimes I'm just having fantastic hours, and then sometimes I'm having mediocre hours, and then it just averages out to 40. So it's not unreasonable that someone might have made $100 in 2 hours. I've done that before. It's not impossible. But the chances of you being able to do that consistently over a longer period of time, like a week, isn't very likely. So that's what I'll say about that. So it's believable, yes. Now, if he's making $50 an hour working 60 hours a week, I would want to ask for some screenshots. You have to show me some proof at that point, unless it's like a concert or some event that's happening. I mean, 140 in 1 hour. Oh, that's pretty dope. See what that says. Holy, don't quit your job yet. Before I quit my job, I tested the market. You want to make sure you get the boat close enough to the dock before you jump. Do not quit your job. You need to get whatever car you're getting. I don't like that. Do what you got to do. And you need to test the market. In fact, you should rent a car and test it first. Renting cars suck. It's not really worth it long term. But instead of making a huge purchase on something you haven't tested, you should definitely rent a car and go drive nights and weekends. See how you feel about it. The money might be great. You might hate the fact that someone threw up in your car. You might hate the fact that these drunk people are in here messing up your stuff. There are other parts of rideshare that isn't money related that you should test to see if it's even for you before you make a large purchase. So no, don't quit your job yet. Go and test it. Make sure the boat is close enough to the dock before you jump off. Uber deserves to cut their fare cut from 70% to 20%. Problem solved. The problem with that is that do I do this now? Do I do this now? Okay. So Uber and Lyft claim that insurance takes up 30% of the rides, right? I have proof that they claim that, not proof that that's what the case is. I'm going to read the proof. A viewer sent it to me. He also sent me something else that I haven't looked at yet, but I'm going to show you the proof. And then I'm going to show you something I found. I'm going to make a video on it. And it's really, really interesting. Really interesting. Let me see if I can find this first. Okay. Give me a second. Okay, so I'm going to read it. It says, this is from Diego, one of our viewers. He's always in here. He's chilling. Did you know that all 50 states, including Florida, require commercial auto liability insurance in addition to personal auto insurance for you to earn money driving on platforms like Uber? These important laws help keep everyone on the road safe, which is why Uber maintains its commercial insurance on your behalf, so you don't have to pay for it on your own. But Florida's commercial insurance coverage requirements for TNC rideshare platforms like Uber are significantly higher than they are for nearly every other car on the road, including taxis. In fact, in Florida, on average, nearly 20% of the total price riders pay goes towards government mandated commercial insurance. So if a passenger pays $50, I'm gonna pick an easier number. If a passenger pays $100, about 20% of that is going towards insurance, right? Even with Lyft, they're committing to paying you 70% after external fees, right? So that was a thing as well. Here's what I discovered. I wanted to try to find how much Uber is paying for insurance, and so I looked up their like quarterly calls PDF document that they give out to shareholders, and I found some interesting information. I'm gonna pull it up. Okay. So this is something called Google LM. It's a notebook that uses AI. So what I did was I took their Uber's 2022 annual report and I uploaded the entire PDF to this notebook. And from this PDF, I can use it as a source to ask the AI questions in order to get answers to the questions that are based off of the report, the PDF, right? So I wanted to find out, how much does Uber pay for insurance? Surprise, surprise. They don't actually include how much they pay for insurance in their shareholder notes, which is weird. You know, public companies should be disclosing what they're paying for insurance, especially if they're saying that insurance is the reason why drivers aren't paid what they should be paid. So then I started to wonder, who does who does Uber get insurance from? And it said that Uber uses a combination of third-party insurance and self-insurance mechanisms to provide for the potential liabilities for certain risks. Uber also has a wholly owned captive insurance subsidiary. All right. So, in plain talk, Uber gets their insurance through other companies. Cool, fine, great. But Uber also self-insurance to a degree. So I got more curious. What does that mean? What is the name of the wholly owned captive insurance company? And this is all pulling actual information from the document Uber released. So I'm not making this stuff up. That's where that information is coming from. So even though I asked what the name of it is, it doesn't tell me. So I said, all right, cool. I went to Google and I searched, what is the name of the insurance company that Uber owns? And Uber owns, let me zoom in for you guys. Uber owns Alika Insurance Inc. It's a Hawaiian captive company which is managed by Aon. Uber also offers its own rideshare insurance coverage called driver partner insurance and optional injury protection through Affinity Insurance Services. So I'm not gonna make any crazy accusations here. I'm not gonna jump down a conspiracy rabbit hole, but the possibility does exist that there is something happening in the background, right? They could have Alika Insurance as a way to lower insurance costs for drivers by combining it with what they have to pay other insurance companies. But on the flip side, the opposite could be true as well. They're not being public about what the insurance costs are. They're not being public about how much they're paying for insurance. It's very possible that they're overcharging for insurance and they're blaming external companies for that overcharging, and they own the company that could be overcharging. Now that could also, it could be a nothing burger, right? That could be the case, and it could also be the case that they created this insurance company to help offset the huge costs from other insurance companies. Either way, if what they say is true, and that 20% of rides are through, I've already done the math. For those of you just tuning in, I've done the math. I've deduced that for full-time drivers, it will be cheaper for us to get our own commercial insurance, even if it costs $600 a month, than to continue to have Uber and Lyft take that from us. As they said it themselves, they are being charged higher than any other driver on the road. So if that's true, then they should be a little more upfront about that information, about what they're paying. And if we could have the option to have our own insurance and not have to get 20% of our income taken. I made, what did I make last week? Let's just call it 2,500. Let's just call it, all right, yeah, I'm just gonna, what is 20% of 2,500? I don't want to do any math on stream. You guys make fun of me. So it's $500. So in 1 week, I would have, according to their numbers, I would have spent roughly $500 paying for their insurance. And in 1 month, I was quoted for $600 of insurance coverage for commercial insurance. So I do think that it would be better overall for full-time drivers to self-insure. And I think that would be a cool fight to have. But both Uber and Lyft aren't really breaking down how much their insurance costs are. So it could be nothing. I don't want to start conspiracies, but I'm definitely going to look deeper into this because there is something interesting happening in the background. I think what I'll do next is I'll look at their insurance company. I'll try to find financial statements of their insurance company, and maybe I can start pinpointing how much Uber as a company is actually paying for insurance. So we'll see. Yeah, you guys are lucky you guys show up here. You guys get sneak peeks into like videos that I'm working on. Do any of the drivers here offer snacks or water? Nah, I don't offer these people anything, man. Nothing. I take mostly short rides and I keep it simple. I don't think it's worth it. I get my tips by having great conversation. See, that says, okay, I thought you did because you drove Tesla. Driven Dad says, I'd rather make base pay no bonus and not worry about hitting ride counts to get the money they used to pay me without bonuses on basic Lyft and Uber X. I used to make almost $60 active hour. I assume you started before the pandemic, but if that was what you were doing during the pandemic, you have to remember that's a like anomaly. Like that was a time period where a lot of drivers stopped driving because they were getting stimulus checks, they were getting unemployment checks, they were getting they had legitimate fears about health and safety. So if you're using that time period as your base, I would say that was a lucky time to drive. But if you were making more years ago, whenever, I think that's valid. And I am aware that drivers were paid more in the beginning, but some of that might have been subsidized by the fact that Uber and Lyft were borrowing a lot of money from investors, you know. But I kind of agree and disagree, because I do think bonuses should go towards drivers who are driving, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of people think that drivers who've been here longer or who do more rides should get more money. I kind of agree with that. Like, if 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 I were a district manager, which I have been in the past, or even a store manager, I make sure I always gave hours to my workers that worked hard. I feel like that's fair. The people, if people ever accuse me of being biased, I would say, yeah, I'm biased towards my hard workers. Like, you tell me, I ranked internally all of my employees, and I would write my schedule based off of the top employee and work my way down. My top employee hands me their schedule. I take their schedule and I put it into the system. My number two employee comes, I take their schedule. Oh, you have a conflict with the number one employee? The number one employee gets that. And I did that all the way down. It sounds unfair, but I think it's fair. And so, like, I kind of agree with that for Uber and Lyft. Like, I bust my butt for them, and I think that I should be getting ride challenges. And I suspect, and I've messaged their support, and they said that ride challenges are based off of your market first, and then your driving habits second. So if there's generally just less money, because Lyft has never made a profit, Uber just started being profitable. So if there's generally less money being made, and they want to create a pool for drivers who actually work, I support that. And you can disagree with that. That's fine. I'm very competitive in nature, and I'm not saying that how I think things are is the best way for things to be. I'm just saying that that's what I believe, and I also acknowledge that there are other belief systems that could be better. That's kind of where I sit on it. It would be nice to have a consistent pay despite bonuses, but I think bonuses are a good incentive, you know. But it is unfortunate for those of you who are making a lot more money in the past and now have to kind of like fight for that same amount of money. So I do agree with you on that end. It sucks that we have to put in more effort to make similar amounts of money or less amounts of money. So I do feel you on that point. Tesla Chronos says without surge or with multiplier surge. I wasn't even here when multiplier was a thing. I started 2020 October, so I'm kind of like, I'm a pandemic baby when it comes to ride sharing. The Driven Dad says this is why I would never vote for politicians that promise to help me in the gig economy, but their values don't align with me. It's fair. It's a good point. Politicians suck. That is also a good point. In general, yeah, I agree with you. I think that necessary evil is what they say. We got Trash Prop 22. Driven Dad says Buddha. It was with surge, without surge, because people tip the bomb. Yeah, that makes sense. I have noticed when it surges less, people tip a little more. And I think that's a reflection of how much they're paying for the ride versus how much they want to tip the driver. So that I picked up someone for $8. He tipped me 20. It was dope. It was cool. Damien says, Torsten says an application to Minnesota rideshare license costs 100K. Why? One app only charges $100 month subscription. Driver keeps 100% of the fare. Lower rideshare application to 1 to 5,000 or free. I don't think that's accurate. I am gonna go use the bathroom, and then when I come back, I'm gonna prove it. Okay, we're that. This is a great segue by Damien. I um I looked through the Minnesota website. I looked through the Minneapolis website, and I wanted to see what it would be required for a driver to set themselves up in order to take private rides in Minnesota. I'm going to go through that. I'm going to go through my process, what I found. And I'm not saying that what I have is 100% accurate. It's possible that Thorsten is correct, and it's possible that I'm also correct, or I could be wrong. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through what I have, show you guys, and then after, I'm going to go and look for that video. See, Damien, if you know what video he said that in, like if it's not a recent video or not an obvious video for me to find, link it. Throw in the chat for me. But for now, I'm going to show you guys, especially for those of you in Minnesota. This is kind of advice for you guys of what you guys need to start doing today. Don't wait till May 1st. Don't wait till the week before. Don't wait until you have more information. You, at minimum, need to figure out what is required of you if you want to take private rides. And I'll give other advice too along the way, but I'm going to show you what is required of someone who lives in Minnesota to take private rides. I'm going to show you what is required of someone who's in Minneapolis to take private rides. So let me get my tabs in order. Here we go. So using the same process I just showed you about how I look through Uber's insurance companies and their documents, I use it here as well. This is called Notebook LM by Google. And you give it information, and based off the information you give it, you're able to ask it questions, right? So what I did is I went to the Minneapolis website. This is it. And I looked through all of the requirements for everything. I pulled the documents, the PDFs. What's this form need? How much does this cost? I pulled everything, and then I uploaded it here. So you can see all the sources on the left-hand side. Minnesota Driver's Manual, Rideshare Company Application, Annual Limo Vehicle Inspection Report. So it's going to use all of these different reports that I downloaded. It's going to use all of these different reports that I downloaded from the actual government website, right? I did my best to make sure they're as up to date as possible. Some are from 2023, some are from 2024. So just to let's start with what Damien said about how much it costs. How much does it cost to get your limo license? Now remember, these answers are only based off of the PDFs that I submitted. See if I can zoom in here. This is the most I'm going to be able to really get. It says, let me try to center it. It says the cost to obtain a limo license is $150. Each limousine decal costs an additional $80, and the decal fees must accompany the vehicle registration form. All right. So being a limo license driver is different from being a rideshare driver, but I also have documents in here for that as well. How much does it cost to get your TNC license is what it's called. That's when you're a rideshare company. Ooh, it says it does not contain information about the TNC license. That's not accurate. Give me all info about TNC. Okay, so it says a transportation network company is a company that oversees TNC drivers and services. It also includes electronic application software which connects TNC drivers with passengers. Driver requirements, it talks about some other stuff. Okay, so how much does the application cost? So this is different from being a limo driver. This is what other companies have to do to get started in Minneapolis. It says the application fee is $150. I want to make sure that that's not. Is that for TNC or for limo? Okay, so it says the application, so it even has sources, right? It has citations here. It says the application fee is $150 plus a new license processing charge. Let's see what the sources are saying. So this is being pulled, right? You can see down here. This is being pulled from the rideshare company application. So this is for the TNC application process, and this is where it's pulling the $150 from. So that's why I'm not sure what the professor is saying, but I'm curious. I want to know. I want to know if this application is wrong or where he's getting his information from. That's not it. He's probably going to talk about it in this video. So, let's see.
We need to start waving goodbye. Bye-bye Lyft. Bye-bye Uber, right? If you want to threaten.
I'm going to speed it up.
A lot of other companies. Drivers, don't be fearful. Austin, Texas has shown us, right? They pull out, a lot of companies pull in, and new companies are formed. And guess what? The Austin drivers, I interviewed 15 of them. They made more money, and you'll make more money in Minneapolis. It is good to get these two companies out of a city, right? It should be our collective effort to shove them out. If they are not willing to play ball, if they are not willing to pay the absolute minimum, goodbye. You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Several other companies are now making sure they're ready to get you where you need to go. Heidi?
Marina, Julie, I spoke to the CEO.
And by the way, I've spoken to all of these CEOs. Everyone that's mentioned in this, thousands and thousands of new people signing up.
Of two companies who say they're ready to come to Minneapolis. One of those companies, Empower, says since last week's announcement of Uber and Lyft's plan to leave, they've already seen a couple hundred drivers sign up in case it comes here. And if Uber and Lyft follow through with their plans, Empower anticipates thousands of drivers. A possible Uber Lyft.
I'm not gonna sit here and watch other people's stuff, but I do want to talk about that as well. So let me let's go back to my notebook. Okay, so first let me finish up with the requirements for getting your limo license. What are the steps for getting your limo license? All right, so in order to get your limo license in Minneapolis, you have to be at least 18 years old, have a valid driver's license, choose a business name, register your business with the Secretary of State, obtain commercial business insurance and workers' compensation insurance if needed. That's if you're employing people. Apply for limousine plates from the Minnesota Department of Public Safety Driver and Vehicle Services. Submit a Form E to MNDOT certified by your insurance company. Register your vehicle, have your vehicles inspected by MNDOT. Complete an annual vehicle registration application, keep records as required. So I suspect that a lot of drivers will suddenly be interested in doing this process. So if you're in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, and you want to do this, I read online on Reddit that there's only one location that does inspections for limousines, and it's a government facility. So if you want to do this, I suspect that as we move closer to May 1st and nothing else changes, you're gonna have a lot of people, and the wait time is gonna be very, very, very high. So start looking into this process if this is something that you're interested in. Then you have to submit the following. You have your permit applications for limousine services, workers' compensation form, payment of $150 permit application. Now, I don't think I'm gonna get a good answer from this, but I know I'm not gonna get a good answer from it. Somebody's gonna ask. But so that's the actual steps. What is the total amount required? So this doesn't include the commercial insurance that we have to start paying for, but they do require proof of your commercial insurance, as you just saw. So the permit application itself is cheap. Does the inspection cost money? It's probably not going to say. Okay, there it is. Yeah, decal fee $80 per vehicle paid at the time of the vehicle registration application. Okay, so like you have the information here. I'm gonna link this in the video so that if anyone in Minneapolis wants to go through this, ask questions, try to figure out what they need to do to move forward, it's pretty cool, right? It's just all based off of actual documents that came from the government website. So this will make it easy. Let me see if I can you create a checklist. It might be beyond the scope of what it can do, but it'd be cool if it could. Nice. So it has all the steps here. That's pretty cool. All right. So there are a couple of potential companies that are in talks with the city council. And there's some problems with that, right? I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but what are the requirements for being a TNC provider? So these are the things that all of these companies that suddenly have an interest in Minneapolis have to do in order to become a rideshare company there. So you have to complete the TNC application and include the following: the application fee, the new licensing processing charge, the annual surcharge if you do not use wheelchair accessible vehicles. You have to attach a data privacy advisory to the application, 5-year background report for each driver, attach a certificate of good standing from the state of Minnesota, attach an illustration of your company trade emblem signage and a description, attach a sample copy of your driver's identification card. What are the physical requirements of TN? I don't even know if I'm asking correctly. But there's one major issue that both Empower and Rides are going to have an issue. Yeah, see it there. Empower needs to have a physical location that's no more than 10 miles away from Minneapolis. So Empower is not even like a physical thing. Empower, how does Empower rideshare app work? Empower is a peer-to-peer alternative to Uber and Lyft, where drivers set their own rates, get 100% of the fare, and are paid directly in-app by riders. The only way that this is legal is if the driver has their private license and private insurance. This doesn't cover you for that. What Uber and Lyft are doing, which is what apparently costs a lot of money, is that they are providing a level of commercial insurance to us, and Empower doesn't do that. Empower has been, it's not even operating legally in most of the places it operates in. Like in DC, let me show you. Let's go to news. So this is from December 8th, 2023, 3 months old, not that bad. Something I've covered before in the past. It says DC area residents have another alternative to Uber and Lyft called Empower, but according to DC's Department of For-Hire Vehicles, Empower has refused to register with the department to operate in the district. DFHV issued a cease and desist letter in November 2020, which Empower appealed and told drivers for Empower that they would be subject to DFHV enforcement, including vehicle impoundment. So we have a company that's operating illegally. They're even warning the drivers that, hey, you can get impounded if you're caught using this. Like, this is not a company that I would want to like bet my finances on, you know? Like, it's cool that Lyft's departure is getting other rideshare companies more interested in the market, but I don't see Empower going there legally. I don't see them aligning themselves with all of the requirements that Minnesota wants from them, because they're not even doing it in the current cities that they operate in. So will it be there? Sure, it might. And if you're thinking about doing it, maybe you really should get your limo license so that you can use that app. I think you should be covered in that scenario. But for any regular person who's doing Uber and Lyft that doesn't want to jump through all those hoops and then they jump on Empower, my concern is that they're not going to be aware of the legal ramifications of what could really happen if that's the case. And then there's Rides. Rides has also expressed some interest. Hold on, I'm pretty sure. All right, so here it is. I have an article for you people in Minneapolis. It says, with Uber and Lyft threatening to leave Minneapolis, these upstart rideshare companies want in. I'm gonna read it and then I'll give you my thoughts. As Uber and Lyft threaten to leave Minneapolis over a new ordinance that would increase driver pay, a handful of upstart rideshare companies are considering moves into the city. Why it matters: Uber and Lyft could be bluffing. I don't think they are anymore. I thought they were at first. Bluffing about leaving if they aren't, as many as 8,000 Twin City drivers would need work, and hundreds of thousands of passengers would need rides. What we're watching, Mayor Jacob Frey vetoed the ordinance that prompted Uber and Lyft's threats, but the Minneapolis City Council will hold an override vote on Thursday, and they voted to override. So this is Texas-based Rides, WRIDZ, which currently operates in 19 cities, including Chicago, Dallas, and Phoenix, and Charleston, my market. I've signed up with them. I'm going to tell you what I think about them in a second. Minneapolis has shot to the top of its list of target expansion markets, CEO Steve Wright tells Axios. Empower, an Uber Lyft alternative currently offering rides in DC, New York, and North Carolina, is also at the ready to serve Minneapolis, according to a company statement. I shared this in my community tab. We can actually just go and read what they said. Empower press release. This isn't it. Empower Rideshare. So here it is. They put this out on March 14th. In advance of the city council's planned vote to override Mayor Jacob Frey's veto of Ordinance 20, I'm not reading that. Empower, a peer-to-peer alternative to Uber and Lyft, today released the following statement to reassure the residents and lawmakers of Minneapolis that Empower is at the ready to provide a solution to the city and surrounding areas that will ensure ride-hail services are not disrupted. Empower has built a solution that is better for drivers, riders, and cities. Rest assured, if the city council overrides the veto and Uber and Lyft actually leave, Empower has a turnkey answer that enables drivers to set their own rates and receive 100% of the fare, which enables riders to save money as well. The way it works is you kind of pay a subscription for it, and then you build your business, and you can have your business use the app to connect with you, which is like, I think it's a good idea. It's fine, but they're not doing it correctly. The reason why, they're keeping 100% of the fare is because Empower is not covering any of the insurance costs or anything. They just said, hey, they consider themselves as an app developer and you are using our app. That's it. They're not a rideshare company. They're not a TNC company. They don't want to be. They just want to be someone who created a software and sells that software for other people to use, which I think is okay, but it's not legal advice. I don't know legal ramifications in full, but this is probably only going to be okay for people who can legally take cash rides, legally take off-platform rides. So if you're a Minneapolis driver and you think Empower is going to be the way moving forward, then you need to make sure you're doing it at minimum in a way that won't get you into more trouble. Because I know if Uber and Lyft leave the market and a provider comes in that is not legal, then it could be like it's gonna make the authorities in Minneapolis start looking more for people using these apps that they shouldn't be using. So that's something that you really should consider. So it says Empower has built a solution that is better for drivers, riders, and cities. Rest assured, the city council overrides the veto and Uber and Lyft actually leave. Empower has a turnkey answer that enables drivers to set their own rates and receive 100% of the fare, which enables riders to save more money as well. It's a great model in theory. It'd be cool to see local government work with this to make this like an actual thing. And this is kind of why I'm interested in observing. I think Uber and Lyft leaving is a mistake. I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that a better contender appears because of this, because it would set a standard for everything long term. So for those of you who've been watching since the beginning, someone said they think that in the long term this is a good move, in the short term it's a bad, and I still agree with that. But if there is a solid alternative that can pop up that can allow drivers to make more money while keeping prices low, while giving Uber and Lyft the boot, that's a win. I'm here for that. I don't think that's what will happen, and I want to be wrong. It says Empower's solution has been used by over 10,000 drivers to provide nearly 5 million rides to over 200,000 riders in the DC metro area. This past month alone, drivers using Empower in DC provided over 200,000 rides to over 25,000 riders. Remember, they're still operating illegally. People are still getting in trouble for using it, but people are still using it. So that's something to just keep in mind. As we have shared with local decision makers, we have complete confidence that there will be no disruption in access to ride-hail services should Uber and Lyft leave Minneapolis. That's a powerful statement, real powerful statement. So it's going to be interesting to see who's really going to come in and fill that gap. There's the Pick app, a small Minneapolis-based startup which has preliminary conversations with city officials about getting licensed. City spokesperson Casper Hill said. Again, for those of you who are just jumping in, I'm extremely disappointed that the city council passed this ordinance. They chose when to vote, and they passed this ordinance without having a backup ready to go. That is problematic for me. You're playing with people's incomes. There's some things that I want to go well. I want drivers to do well, but it's very, very reckless that you've been fighting for this for almost a year and you don't have a real backup left. You're scrambling right now, and it's very, 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 very disappointing. Very, very, very upsetting. So here's how it works. Unlike Uber or Lyft, which takes a cut of every ride, pronounced rides, makes its money by charging drivers a flat subscription rate, often $100 per month. In my market, I think it was $100 per month. I think they eventually doubled to $200. It says drivers keep the full fare from each trip, which means Minneapolis minimum pay ordinance might not cut into the company's bottom line as much. So yes, the ordinance of how much drivers have to get paid for XYZ might not cut into their pay, but unless they are getting, that's interesting. I don't think they require commercial insurance here in Charleston, but it's also possible they are operating in places that doesn't require that. And I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't know the full. If I was in Minneapolis, I could have better answers. I'd just be closer to the source, but I'm not 100% sure of the legalities of this. So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But I am happy that there is a scenario that is brewing that will force that information to light. Like we're going to see real soon if these things are legal or illegal in Minneapolis. And then it's going to set a precedent for everything else moving forward. So it says a veto override by the council on Thursday would ramp up pressure on state lawmakers to reach a deal on a statewide bill before May. The city council is certainly making me rethink my thoughts on preemption. I already told you how I felt about that. I don't like it. Preemption, they're saying that they want to take the power away from the city council to be able to make changes at the local level. Despite the fact that I disagree with the changes that the city council wants to make, I still maintain the fact that they did it properly. And, you shouldn't change the entire law just because you lost. I'm not a fan of that. I don't think that's very democrative of the system. Not a fan. It says if Uber and Lyft do leave, Freight told reporters this week it's unrealistic to expect upstart providers would be able to fill the void in less than 2 months. And I agree with that. It was originally only for a month, but then the council pushed it back to 2 months, which smart on the council, but I still don't think that's enough time. So I'm going to jump into the comments. I'm going to see what you guys are saying. Before I do, we only have like 15 minutes left, so I'm not going to be able to get to that Tesla stuff. But I want to, even if you guys don't live in Minneapolis, I think you guys should be doing some of this too. But this is specifically for drivers in Minneapolis. If you are in Minneapolis, I would like for you to take extra precautions with your finances. I would like for you to, one, make sure you have a budget. I know a lot of people don't have budgets, but budget that you actually written down, not something stored in your head. You need to have a budget. You need to go through your budget. The best way to do it is to pull up your bank statement from last month, go through every single transaction, categorize everything, and start from there, right? Figure out what your four walls cost, your electricity, your house, your car note, whatever it is. Get it on a piece of paper, write that down. I want you to know when you're done making your budget, how much money you need to make every month to the specific cent. Like that's what I want from you. I need you to do that. You need you to do that. And then once you have your budget, you need to create a plan that will allow you to have at least a 3-month emergency fund. So what I would do is if you have debt, only pay your minimums on your debt. I would go into emergency mode, and every dollar you make that is over your budget, it needs to go into savings. Because the reality is, even if you disagree with me, nobody really knows what's going to happen. If Uber and Lyft stay, you don't know if the supply and demand is going to be enough for you to continue making money. If these other companies come in, even if you get 100% of the fare, you still don't know if you'll be able to make enough money. The reason why I don't drive with rides, even though I'm signed up with them and have access to them, is that even though we get 100% of the fare, that doesn't mean that 100% of the fare is more than what I make with Lyft, right? Rides is not paying me $40 per hour. I'm making over $40 per hour with Lyft. Just because you keep a higher percentage doesn't mean you're making more money. Someone has to lose and someone has to win. There are three people involved: the rideshare company, the passenger, and the driver. And with rides, the passenger wins because there's no surges. There's no surges. So the rides are cheaper. And the only way they can compete with Uber and Lyft is by making it cheaper for the passenger. So 100% of the income that you generate from the passengers doesn't mean it's more than the 40, 50, 60% you generate with Uber and Lyft. Now, it could be. There's times where it could, times where it can't. In my market, it isn't. In a market where Lyft doesn't exist, it might be the next best thing, but it still might not be enough. And we don't know how insurance requirements will go. We don't know who's going to be responsible for that. We don't really know what Minneapolis is going to make these companies do that might change the structure that we're reading now. So that's real. This is real life here. If you go happy go lucky May 1st thinking you're going to make a bunch of money with these new companies, or if Uber and Lyft stays, you don't know that for a fact, and you only have less than 2 months. You have a month and a half to come up with finances to secure yourself. I just want you to insulate yourself from any potential negative repercussions, even if you don't think something negative will happen. It's very, very, very important. So important. And then once it gets figured out, and even if you determine that you're able to make enough money to survive, I think the next best thing that you could do, for my tip number 3, is to pay off your car. You might have other debt. Usually the way I do it is I started with my lowest debt. I got them all in order. I started with the lowest debt, the lowest dollar value debt, and I paid that off. And then I started taking the money that I would have had to pay for that lowest debt and paid the next thing off. And I kept doing that. It's called a snowball, where you start with the smallest thing, you get a quick win, and you keep moving forward. In December, I paid off my car. The only thing we have left is our student loans, and hopefully we'll pay that off this year. I want you, for those of you in Minneapolis, not to follow that specifically. I would suggest paying off your car, because even if crap hits the fan, having your car payment is probably your biggest payment outside of your mortgage or your rent. Not having to worry about a car payment in a world where rideshare isn't working is a huge relief. My check engine light came on in January because I forgot to put the gas cap in. And before I realized that, the first thought that came to my mind was, man, this is unfortunate, but at least my car is paid off. It will turn emergencies into inconveniences. Like, I can't. I always knew that I would feel a difference once my car was paid off, and I didn't really know what that difference would entail. But I bet you, any drivers in Minneapolis who has a paid off car is stressing about this a lot less than people who have very expensive car notes, very expensive insurance, very expensive bills, very expensive cost of living. And that's why I want you guys to take those 3 tips. Do your best to play around with these different apps that are popping up. We don't really know which one is going to fill in. The faster you get into it is the better chance you'll have of being at the top once the ball gets rolling. Save as much money as you can, cut all of your expenses, pretend like it's doomsday right now. Like, go through your expenses, cut off the Netflix, cut off the Hulu, cut off all the subscription services for the next 2, 3, 4 months, and just stack money. And keep in mind, we saw this last winter. Well, last winter was the hardest winter I've ever went through as far as finances go with Uber and Lyft. If whatever change happens on May doesn't pay as much as Uber and Lyft would pay, you're going to be in really, really deep trouble when winter comes. You might be time to start looking for a part-time job until all of this boils over. If you wait until May 1st when all the other drivers wait, and then all of you at once find out that this isn't working the way you hoped it would work, you're going to be screwed, because now all those drivers are also going to be looking for jobs that aren't related to rideshare. So if you're able to get your foot in the door now, I think it's your best bet. I think you go get a day job, whether it's part-time, full-time, whatever, get whatever you can. And then at night and weekends, you do your driving thing until something solid is solidified. And I don't think I'm being unreasonable here. You can disagree with me about my take on how much you should get paid, or whether this is a good move by the council or a bad move by the council. But whether you agree or disagree with me, the reason why I think it's a bad move, because I think it'll harm drivers more than it will help drivers. You can disagree with that, but at the core of what I believe, it's for the drivers. And so the advice I give to you, regardless of whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I think it will help you long term, regardless of what the council does, regardless of what Uber and Lyft does, regardless of what anyone does. That's all I have to say about that. I'm going to jump back into the comments. We have 10 minutes left. At the end of those 10 minutes, I'm going to kick you guys off and go to the Rideshare Guy podcast. And for the next 10 minutes, I'll just look at comments and see what you guys have to say. The Driven Dad says, I'm very skeptical of the motives of any of these politicians. Where were they when the apps were breaking their laws in the beginning? I don't even know what you're referring to. But, in this specific scenario, you have council city members, which is government, fighting against the mayor and the senator. So it's interesting to see two internal bodies of government conflict over a rideshare. That's not typically normal. So the CBL Daddy says, my own business. Tell me about your business, bro. What is the business? I have a very market mindset. As a YouTuber, I have to, right? So tell me what your business is, and maybe I can figure out a better answer to whether you should be advertising it to drivers or not. Matt says, love the show, Tristan. I appreciate you. Thank you for that. Damien says, if Uber cuts is lowered to 10 to 20%, that 70% payout to driver does not raise the rider's fare. If a cash ride, it even lowers the fare. I'm thinking about what you're saying. I do think Uber in their business model has room to pay drivers better. They posted some crazy revenue last on their last post, because they've actually been trying to break even, or not break even, but to make a profit. So I agree with you that there's some room for Uber to give us more money without changing anything. I agree with you there. I'm on that. It always over scrolls. Why does it do that? Dang, you guys have been popping off in the comments. All right. I'm right, 2,344. I have those weeks as well. This is the first time I've actually been ranked top 10 on that platform at all since I've been paying attention. So sometimes I'm down there. It's whatever. I'm just okay. I didn't talk about this, but like I said, in winter, it was the hardest winter I've ever had. So I'm trying to make sure I'm stacking. I have a goal to pay off almost 100K of debt this year with me and my wife's income, not just my income. And I know that if I don't try to do it during the busy season to go over the top, over the board, I'm honestly trying to make 10 grand this month, and I'll make a video about it. But yeah, I made 6,000 so far. We're halfway through. If I keep up my pace, I should hit it. But I'm trying to take advantage of the fact that it's busy, and I want to take advantage of the fact that I understand that next year, the income we make now is never promised. I'm trying to get into my brain that today, right now, will always be the best day to make as much money as possible, because we really don't know what Uber, Lyft, city councils, government, cars, we don't know what's going to happen. I'm trying to do better at taking advantage of today. So if you guys see me working crazy and you think I shouldn't, mind your business. I'm joking. Driven Dad says, these people trying to get me to take a shared ride to the airport, but they will be like, I need you to hurry. Some advice I have about shared rides that I got from Reddit is, if you pick up a shared ride and then you hit don't accept any more requests, it's a good way to not have to do that, unless you want to. Damien says, what does the median driver make in Charleston? $23 an hour is what this app says. I don't know if you saw it earlier. I gotta figure out where it's at. So last week they made $23.17 per hour. I made $42.40 per hour. Half of it's your market and the other half is strategy. Driven Dad says, if you blame your problems on other people, unfortunately, you're giving other people the power over your ability to win. I agree with that. And a better distinction that I like is, just because something isn't your fault doesn't mean you can't take responsibility for it. And if you take responsibility for it, chances are you're going to have a faster and better outcome than if you wait. right? So there are legitimate things that Uber and Lyft do to kind of screw us over, but my channel has always focused on what we can do as individuals to kind of like, despite the fact that that's happening, still make money. And I get called like Uber shill, this, that, and the third for it. But that's just how I am in life. Like I said earlier, the way you do anything should be the way you do everything. And I always focus on what I have direct control over. And I do it in hopes that it can influence the things that I don't have control over. So that's how I live my life. And that's how I want you guys to live your life. I'll be honest with you guys. My channel is not for every single rideshare driver. My channel is for rideshare drivers that are trying to maximize their income. I expect you guys to not be average. I expect you guys, if you're living in Charleston and you're watching this channel and you're applying some of the advice I put out there, I know I haven't made content that's strategy based in a while, but I have some older ones that's still pretty good. I expect you to be making more than average. And that's what my hope is here for you. I'm not an average. I try not to be average. I try to always improve and get better. And that's the expectation here. But people who want to be average, who want to do the least to make the most, that my content's not for you. My content is for people who want to do the most to make the most, you know? And of course, everyone can learn from me, but when you watch my content, you have to watch it through that lens, right? Someone who wants to do the least and earn the most, they can still benefit from watching, right? But if you want to understand my perspective better, understand like I'm here for drivers that want to be the best, right? If the rideshare guy, Sergio, he's here for the average driver, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I just understand who my target is. My target is specifically people who want to use rideshare as a stepping stone to something else. But there's people who want to use rideshare as a long-term career. That's fine too. You can learn things here. But my goal is to use rideshare as a stepping stone into something better. So I am Jazz says, I have a rental. What's the best way to make the most money and what app is better to drive for Uber or Lyft? You have a rental. Who's your rental through? I don't like if you rent through Lyft, you can't use it on Uber. If you rent through Uber, you can't use it on Lyft. If you have a general rental, I don't even know how you can use it for Uber or Lyft. It is possible that there's a way. I'm just not aware of it. But you can do food delivery. Legally, I don't know. I don't know what the legal ramifications of you doing food delivery in a car rental is, but food delivery doesn't require things like registration. It might require insurance. It's been a while since I've signed up for one, but I would say one, it depends on your market, Uber, Lyft, and two, it depends on the incentives. Right? Don't get locked into Uber or Lyft. That's a bad question to start with. You should have all the apps, right? Food delivery, grocery delivery. You should be signed up to all of them, and you should pick what you do based off of the incentives. If something has a great incentive, that's what you do that week, right? Don't fall into this trap that Uber is better than Lyft or Lyft is better than Uber. There are circumstances where Uber is better than Lyft and circumstances where Lyft is better than Uber. And those circumstances can change every single day. Every single day. For example, in my market, the base pay for Uber is better, but the tools that I have with Lyft allow me to make more money per hour. So it's a sliding scale of what is the best thing to use and when is the best thing to use. So don't fall into that trap. What's the app you use to track your average? So this is the Solo app. No matter what video you watch from me, it should be available. The link is an affiliate link. That you should be able to see that your average without paying any money. But if you want to see how much other drivers are making in your market or other markets across America, that might cost money. But then if you support me on Patreon, which is also linked in every single description that I have, I actually track my own stuff. I track my mileage here, and then it automatically, I put in my numbers here for Uber and Lyft, and then it automatically tells me, I've made $5,989 so far, how many hours I've worked. But we're at 5:59. This is like the first time I was unable to go through all the comments, and I'm sorry, but it's time to go. Oh man, so many good comments. So many good comments. All right, Damien, I'll definitely watch this video, and maybe I'll do a response video just for that response. But I didn't want to watch his whole video on the live stream because then he can actually select to demonetize my stream, and I don't want that to happen. So that's why I didn't really want to watch so much of it. All right, but we gotta go. I'm gonna hand you guys. Let me see if I can hand you guys over. Let me see how that works. I don't think I can. So I'm just going to say peace. Go check out the Rideshare Guys podcast. It should be starting right now. Is there really no way to do this? Pop out dashboard, channel, level settings, whatever.